Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Mount Mindset. We have got the long-awaited guest, Coach Crossar, aka Dale.
Hello.
Now, we should have done this a long time ago. We have probably had 100 conversations that we could have recorded and we didn't. And all the things that you wanted to know, from making the leap from your side hustle, what to do about doubt, why you should be confident, how you should not get caught up in the rat race, and why it's important to have a vision. And more importantly, if you don't have that vision, just start. So if you want to find out how this thing unfolds, let's get stuck in, because this will be one you want to see through at the end. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Does he look like type?
No, it's Japanese culture.
Right.
So it's all to do with Japanese culture. So you'll have shows that will be into the historic parts of Japan, or the mythical gods and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, no, what's that? Like, for that's what you do with your profession.
It's funny, but he's got the Asperger's and I'm showing him how to visualise.
What does that look like?
It looks like someone who gets the instruction. It looks like someone that gets the instruction and then they don't understand the instruction, and you make the minutest of tweaks and they go, yes, I get it.
I got this.
I know what you mean now. But he's quite good. He's really quick on uptake. Like, he's very, very, very quick at learning, which is pretty impressive. I don't know if that's just his trait or a trait of that kind of neurodivergence he's got.
So he put it into practice quickly as well.
He's good. It's almost like it's like if you programmed a computer and you got the garbage in, garbage out. So you put garbage in, he's like, no.
Aye.
And then if you get the right code, he's like, yes.
He's got it, yeah. When we were away to Madrid there, I was speaking to a guy who's been in every fitness mentor that you can think of in the UK. So there's like maybe 6 or 7 of the big players that everyone knows their names, and he's beaten them all. But so is this other person that he was talking about, and he found out he was neurodiverse and he had some form of autism when he was like 23, 24. And he was saying it kind of made sense because he killed it in every mentorship that he ended up seeing this guy in. He's like, no matter what he'd done, boom. And he was just so laser focused with it. So
it's definitely a skill. It's an absolute skill when you see people that are focused, because when you get Mikey dialed in, so on the morning calls, with you would think that people are showing up sharp, ready to go, focused, quickly in the zone.
Look what it's done to his fitness. That's an example of it. And I like when he talks about it being his superpower, because it is. It's a great way of reframing your mind towards, oh, this is against me, and it's like, no, this is for me. I'm going to make, what's the traits that I can make this be be a benefit instead of a detriment. That's what I like about it.
It's cool because you see Big Mikey's journey and what he's done, and it's interesting that he's went off track in spectacular fashion, and then also made a decision, and then got results in spectacular fashion.
That's what I mean. It's the same
the
traits,
extremes.
It's the traits. Like, they can work for you, just wherever you want to put your time and your energy to. And it's like two opposite ends. I don't think he could be a guy that's in the middle. Like,
no,
that means to into things, all in or all out.
And did I tell you about about one of the ideas he had?
No.
So he had an idea about a clothing brand,
right?
And he'd been thinking about a name for it for months and months and months. And after the Sunday call, so we had the Sunday call, the Mount Mindset coaching call on Sunday, and it was probably one of the most energetic, high energy calls. And people were buzzing, where they weren't wanting to get off the call. We were nearly 2 hours in, and it was like, right, well, we need to get wrapped up here.
Go to bed.
But the energy was the energy was that high, and just unanimously, like, do you want to start it tomorrow morning? And it was like, right, okay, let's do it. So we were on the call, and Mike had messaged me after it, and it was about this process of visualization. So when you visualize what you want, there's a way of doing it that was promoted by The Secret, the book, The Secret, Rhonda Byrne's book. And it's a new age interpretation of old occulted knowledge. So the occulted knowledge means hidden, and there was practitioners that used this method called visualization or manifestation, and they didn't want the masses to know, because they didn't want if everybody knows, then the power structure dynamic changes. So you get a power differential between those that know and those that don't, and that's where you get social structure. Is that you can essentially lead or have an advantage over the rest of the world because you have this knowledge that no one's privy to, and that knowledge is leaked out over the years. So there's people like former occultists, famous ones like Rudolf Steiner. He was a Rosicrucian. A few like Manly P. Hall, which was a 33rd degree Mason. And a few other sort of big characters that had came out and says, look, this is really what they're doing, and it appeared that they were expressing that the time now was to share this information. So there was a time to keep it hidden, and there was a time to let it seep out, and those who would use it, they would find the answers. And the old saying, you know, when the student's ears are open, the teacher will appear, and that was their style. So within this was this process of how to manifest something properly. An example that I used in the call is, like, just take a look around at this room, look at anything, the desk, the recorder, the mics, your glass, your bottle, desks, bookshelves, insulation, lights, every single thing didn't exist before it was in someone's mind. This came from a manifestation of a thought. Everything spawned there. It's not a chicken and egg scenario. This is, here is how this thing began. It began as a thought. Someone had came up with the creative idea that this would be a good thing. They then create it, and then that idea is taken up by lots and lots of people. Then you've created a product or a service or some sort of good that people would say that my life would be better with this in it. So this process of manifestation has been hidden, and it's the few that knew it. And over the years, like famous people that have came out and it said it, like Jim Carrey tells his story about when he wrote the $10 million check as a struggling actor, and he got three movies in 1994, The Mask, Ace Ventura, and I think it was Dumb and Dumber, all hit off, and his biggest payday was The Mask at $10 million. He went from a struggling actor, and he's like to this movie star, and he says that's what he visualised, and he believed in the power of it. Arnold Palmer, the famous golfer, PGA Pro, says there was not a shot that he didn't hit that he hadn't visualised first.
He says in the early interviews of Tiger Woods, there's one where a guy, I think it's one of his first opens he's at, and the guy interviewing him was like, it's not a wee bit arrogant to say that you're going here to win. And he's like, he's also young and a wee bit timid, but he's like, there's nothing, the only worst thing of coming second is coming third. He's like, I'm here to win, and that's what I want to do. And then the guy has to interview him after he's won. He went and smashed it. And he's like, well, I learned my, because the guy says this at the end of his interview. I just watched it this morning. The guy's like, you'll learn. He says, you'll learn. Because this, like, you should, I think his whole argument was, you're so young, you should be grateful that you're able to get to this because you're one of the youngest guys that's came to this Open. And
he's the classic case of pay your dues. The guy's like, saying, look, you've showed up like a hot shot. It's your first competition. You're coming in here like the Mr. Big Bollocks.
The fact that he qualified is like, you should be so proud of that experience. He goes, yeah, I am, but I'm here to win. He says, I'm not, this isn't my visual, this isn't what I've just visualised to get to the Open. I want to be a world class
You're not here to participate, I'm here to win.
And he ends the interview, he goes, oh well, he goes, you'll learn your lesson. And he's, I'm sorry, I just had to say that. He goes, maybe it's with age. And then he has to interview him after he's won. I've seen
the initial one. I've not seen the second
the guy's one. Just sitting there and he's laughing, but you can tell he feels like an absolute
humble pie.
He's like, well, I learned the lesson. That's a great example.
And he's saying, I'll never do that again.
Exactly, because it's like, fuck man, there must be something to that. And it's weird into arrogance and cockiness. It's a thing that people like. It's almost seen as a bad trait, but almost needs to exist to a certain point.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your style is, but something I've heard over the years, and I've finessed this over the years, but I wasn't as finessed as I am now. There was a time where I was much more brazen and much more brash.
You need to be humble as well.
I don't know. I had to look that up.
Do you know what's this humble shit?
Humility. The humility is a great trait, but it's something that some of us need to work on. Myself included, because I had the whole the confidence was high, and the interesting thing is that when you had people that would call you out, they'd be like, you're too cocky, you're too arrogant, or you're too full of yourself, or whatever. And then like a week later, you would do something really really good, and a week later somebody would go, the topic would come up, and they'd be like, what do you think how do you think that he gets it? It's just his confidence. And it's
like
this thing where you don't know if it's a reflection where they would like to be confident, but they think that you're maybe being a bit too much.
Projection there.
Just like the reporter, the guy that was doing the report on Tiger Woods, where he's like, look, I want to bring you down a peg or two because I think you're too cocky. But then when you pull something off, it's now called confidence. Isn't it a weird switch?
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but you need it's very rare that you get an amazing result without that sort of.
Yeah, but what about people like your characters, like Wes Watson and I guess Andrew Tate to an extent, because there is an arrogance and cockiness that they lead by. Do you think they get the payoff? I think that's really where I wouldn't say it's the same thing, though. Would you?
Well, I think, for instance,
like
if you take Tiger Woods like as an example, I mean, obviously he came into a bit of trouble later in his life with some of the shenanigans that he was getting up with, but putting that aside, just looking at his career, what happened was he came in, he had a vision of what he wanted to do, and then he lived by that vision, and he wouldn't be distracted by someone saying that he should reduce that vision down to what they think he should be. He kept on his path of what he thought he should be, and that worked extremely well. But that worked well because he demonstrated in action his vision.
Yeah.
So nobody could question it. But the guys like Andrew Tate and Wes Watson, they're playing this media image which shows their arrogance. It's not as visible or as obvious the results that they would get where Tiger was actually playing the best in the world and won. So there wasn't an interaction.
It's not a debate either.
Yeah, and it's like one-sided. It's just they've got their own reality TV show, for lack of a better word, where people are buying into it because they like this attitude. They like this sort of renegade, cocky, take no nonsense, take no shit approach, which is appealing because a lot of people don't like that they're ruled, and we are. And people don't like that you need to conform, but they do. And these guys are saying, "Nah, don't conform with shit, don't do anything." So like they're the lovable rogue. There's something that everyone would love to go and say piss off to their boss or say, "No, I'm not fucking doing it." But they end up biting their tongue and playing the game and having to sort of go along with it. And these guys are doing what essentially they would like to do. And I think that's their appeal. But Tiger or anyone that's accomplished something that is tangible, as in like Andrew Tate or Wes Watson haven't went up against the best in the world at a particular thing to prove that they are the best. Maybe Andrew Tate with his kickboxing, you can maybe say he's done something, but that's not what he's known for. He's not known for that. He's known for this sort of social media influencer profile where he's sort of making all these claims and he's pushing it out. So it's a hard comparison. But you can see the appeal for them, like people's appeal to Tiger is that he was an exceptional generational talent.
And an underdog to a certain extent.
He was underdog. It was a traditionally white sport. There was never a black superstar in golf to the level that Tiger achieved. He didn't come from an affluent background, so it was the whole classic American dream story. So the story, playing from the age of 3. Going out and showing up and getting shot down by these reporters and then making them eat humble pie. What a story!
I know, it must feel good,
and it would feel amazing. You go, look, that's pretty cool. But the thing with the other guys is we're in a different time now. So the social media and the influence has changed. Legacy media is dying a very, very slow death, and the rise of sort of more individual platforms is on the rise.
Well, that's where they are at the end of the day. It's like almost. So where podcasts become media outlets as well, to a certain extent. So
we've not really introduced you.
Hello.
So for people that don't know who you are.
So I'm Dale Crossar, and this is my introduction. This is the first time on Mindset. We're saying, was that on camera or off camera? So obviously you come in here to record your podcast and that, and we've had tons of great chats. So we'll see where this conversation goes. I don't know where you want to take it, but I'll let you steer it.
Oh, so I met you maybe how long? Maybe a year ago?
Yeah,
a bit longer?
August, September time, I think, maybe October, maybe somewhere around there.
I mean, coming in here, I was looking for a studio. You've built the studio. You've been running your own podcast, branched out into media, which is a natural sort of fit.
Yeah.
And over the course, figuring out what would work for me, and we had loads of great conversations, and it seems like we should have done this a long time ago.
Grew my mindset into where it is now. What was the early day? Oh, Conversation with an Investor. That's what
Conversations with an Investor was a podcast for no other reason than I couldn't think of any other name.
Aye, and then it's weird how that just visualises and becomes a stronger idea. What do you think your visualisation is then at the start there? Because I remember one of those first early conversations, and it was like for your kids. I don't know if maybe you thought your life was threatened because you're like, in case I'm not here, I want recorded episodes where that can be passed down to my kids, but that has now evolved into this whole mindset thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I became aware of it. I don't know, there wasn't an event, like I didn't have a near-death experience or anything. I remember...
Too low in the squats or something like that. That could be me.
I overpushed the bench press. They thought, I'm in trouble here. But I remember thinking to myself, I don't remember what spawned it. I think I was buying life insurance. I think he was buying life insurance, and I remember thinking, life insurance, well, it's probably a good thing to do if if the unexpected happened, because we don't know when our time's up.
I know.
And that sort of sowed a seed in my mind, and at the time I didn't think it was a particularly great teacher, because I never taught anyone. And I thought to myself, well, what if I did die young? What about all this knowledge that's in this brain? Like, I probably should get it down. And then I thought to myself, well, I'll write it down. And then when I started writing it, I thought this is going to take a long time. And then if I write it down, it might not be like if I was teaching my kids, and touch wood, I'm here to teach them. But if I was teaching my kids, I wouldn't be writing it down and getting them to read it. Yeah. I'd be explaining it to them. And I thought, right, well, that's probably a good idea. Yeah. Maybe I should record it. And I thought, well, I'll do it in like audio. And I thought, no, you're not going to see the whole thing. Maybe we should do it in video. And then I thought, well, and my pal that passed away later on, he had said, like, for years and years and years, he'd said, you really need to get this out there. See that, because he'd always come to me for advice, and it was weird because he was 20 years my senior, so he was 20 years older than me, and he's coming to me and asking me what I should do all the time. And he's like, whenever I've got a problem, you're the first person I go to. And I thought, right, well, maybe I should do this. And it started off my kids, and then it spawned into, well, if it works for my kids, it'll work for everybody else. And then I'll start a podcast, because that'll be a good way of getting that out. And that was where it started. So it was an interesting sequence of events.
It's crazy how things just grow and foster into something.
But we started with the property stuff, which was, let me do a property course, because that's the thing that most people, like, if I get asked about geopolitical situations, structures of businesses, investment ideas, trading ideas, trading positions, trading instruments. But predominantly the thing that I'm asked about the most is property, because it's where I started and where I got a lot of success early on. And I think it's a great place for anybody to start. We started doing the property course, and I very quickly realised that most of any shift into what you do is about your mindset. So the mindset was a big shift, where I thought, well, let's sort the mindset out. And then I looked at this property course, and it was like 85%, 90% a mindset course. And I thought, well, here's the problem. If you have the mindset, 85 to 90% of this is no use to you. You really only need the 10-15% knowledge part.
Detail of,
and I thought, split the two of them, because the mindset applies to everything. Like, the principles of being a good investor, a good property investor, a good business person, is the same principles if you want to be a good single mum, or the best bin man in the world, or the best butterer of toast. The principles are the same. And that's what we see in Mount Mindset. So Mount Mindset came from a short story that I wrote. Yeah, I wrote a story about why is mindset important, and it tells the tale of climbing a mythical hill where the spirit's trying to get you off the hill and get you back to base. But if you push through and get to the top, you can see all your goals and dreams. You can plot a path there. So that was the idea of, if you get to the top of this mountain, you can have your goals and dreams, but it's going to be a battle in your mind to get there, because this mountain's going to try and trick you and get to the bottom.
You're against resistance.
And this is the thing. This is we have loads of conversations about this, and I thought, well, let's get it down, because we should have hit record about 100 times by now.
Yeah, I know. You're there for another 100 episodes to get out.
And it's cool because, like, if you even look at, you've got Bulletproof Mindset, Bulletproof Studio, you've got your coaching business. You're obviously dealing with clients all the time.
Yeah, so figuring out my path, even since then as well, it's sort of spawned back and forth. But It's good. It's good. I think it's forever evolving. I think that's we've talked a lot about the entrepreneurial trap and all this sort of stuff, but I don't think you ever complete it. I think the goals just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's like it's like an artist that draws the pictures or paints the pictures. They do a masterpiece, but they never go, that's me done, put down the brush and pack it away. They're like, where's the next one? And they're constantly looking at this shifting world about how they can capture that, how they can capture the essence of what they're doing. And an entrepreneur is the same, where how many people have you seen that have had a hugely successful business, sold it for millions and millions of pounds, and then they go and have have a good time for a wee while. They go and spend the money, they party, and then they're like, oh, what do I do now? And they go and find purpose by setting up another business, because they seek that thrill, which is they see an opportunity, they see something, and then they go, I could make that work. Or they see somebody doing it, somebody doing a business that they think they can do better, they can add some quality, they can add some value, and people would be attracted to use this business that they're setting up versus the existing one that's there. So you can see how that morphs and that develops. And it's one of these things that I'm fascinated. I mean, I don't know if you see it in your coaching business, but I'm seeing it a lot with the amount mindset calls is that it's the template's almost identical. With a few nuances. The framework of mindset is identical across the board.
For everything, yeah. No, it's exactly. And I only came to that conclusion maybe. I thought fitness was fitness, and fitness was one of the single-handedly the best way to create resistance in your life to then help your mindset. Still a big believer of that, but hearing you do your mindset talks and all the topics that you've covered and all that sort of stuff, there's like realizations, like when you're talking about certain things, or I'm listening to an audiobook or another podcast, and I'm like, it's exactly the same to this fitness client I've got that have never worked out in their life, or such and such who's a mum of 2 kids, and all this. It's crazy how no matter the situation, you're right, the template is more or less the same. And it's almost like that with resistance training in a way. But just what you said on there with the whole, I had a great conversation with Scott, because he just retired for professional boxing. He's always been competing in something for his whole life. And 11 years as a professional boxer, he was talking about how a lot of people gave him advice, like, make sure that goal set when you lose that part, because he's got his business goals, his family goals, but his own self, I don't know what category you'd have this in, like maybe the part that fills you. I'm not saying that these other aspects don't fill him with joy, but the part that you do for you was always boxing. And he says, the first time in my whole life, I felt a wee bit lost. And I think I asked him if he was doing all right. He was like, I'm fine. I was like, no, are you really doing all right? And like that whole second question, the third question. And he's like, fuck man, I'm a wee bit lost. Now you have this front on, this mask on. But he was telling stories of all people that he's known in the past that stepped away from professional boxing and turned to drugs, alcohol, and try and fill that hole in other areas of their life. So super important. I
mean, they look for that. They look for something to fill the void, there's something missing. Their part of their identity is missing, and when you don't have the answer, you tend to look for something that will give you a thrill or a buzz, or sometimes escapism. So you want to escape the feeling that you feel lost. So that's why you turn to, these sort of ways to escape. Sex, drugs, alcohol, gambling. They're all classic tales. But the thing that they look for is they look for to either get away from the feeling that they feel lost, because a part of their life, a part of their identity is actually gone, and they've not reconfigured who they are yet. So they've not sort of reformatted their who they see themselves as. So it's almost like they feel like they're dying a slow death, because
it's like
part of them's died. That's the way that they feel, and that feel like they call it grief. It's just a bad feeling that they've got. So naturally, if you don't deal with it, you then look to escape it.
Have you ever experienced that? Because if you think of like that scenario, Scott's been known as Scott, the guy who owns Rivals Martial Arts Studio, and Scott, the professional boxer, and it's like that's the title that is taken away. Have you ever experienced that when you're kind of changing? Have you ever been like had your identity in a certain role, or as known as a certain person?
Nothing comes to mind. I don't think so.
So for me, I think that's really where I felt a wee bit lost when I was. only before, and it makes more sense now because I chose this path to help people with their fitness goals, and big believer that every single person should lift weights one form or another. Built the studio, started doing more studio stuff, and it was taking me away from that. And I'm like, am I Dale the studio owner? Am I Dale the business owner? Am I Dale the entrepreneur? Or am I Dale the coach? And I think that was really questioning me a lot. And
why did you feel that you needed to attach something to yourself?
I don't know if I was, but I think upon like reflection, I was maybe confusing myself. Like when you go at your goal set, and it's like, what is it you want to push? And it's like, why push them all? Can I push them all? It's like, yeah, but you're better to like focus on one thing, drive that to a certain extent, and then it was just trial and error through kind of bringing me full circle, because it then allowed obviously Jill to come in full time and for her to find her vision and goal with that sort of thing, and then allowed me to get kind of have a bit more balance with what I want.
So for everybody that doesn't know, Jill's your good lady, it's your wife.
Yeah, so I probably talk a wee introduction about me.
You started yourself, you started solo, built the gym.
Yeah,
because you were doing PT.
Yeah, so a kind of quick run through of I guess life up until now. So I'm 31 years old. Always into fitness, always into some sort of, very competitive during high school when it came to sport. That was the only thing I found myself I was good at. Academically, it wasn't there. Not that it wasn't there. I always remember this one part in high school where what was the classes in high school again? It's like your credit, intermediate, and foundation was where like the real fucking idiots go. And I couldn't give a crap about my maths exam, and I thought it was cool to like be the idiot in the class. And I get put into this foundation class into third year, and I was looking around. It was everybody who smoked. I didn't smoke. Everybody taking drugs, or whatever walks of life. And I thought to myself, I was like, nah, this isn't the environment I want to be in. Tried a little bit, but for me, I attached early on money. I was like, I like having my own freedom with money. So I got the milk running school, and that was always something I remember my dad talking about, like doing the milk run when he was younger, and you get paid like good money and all that sort of stuff. It was £11 a shift, so we're not talking like baller money, but when you're a kid, it like feels good. So I got that and started making a bit of money for myself. £200 cash in hand a week, which at the age of 16 was good. That job taught me my work ethic, because I was Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, 2 a.m. to 7, and then go to school. Thursday, Friday after school, you'd be going round the doors collecting money. And I was like, this is great. I get to make money. And then got my own car, started doing Chinese deliveries, making £300 cash in hand at the age of 17. I was like, fuck school. I went to college I wanted to be a PE teacher just because I was good at PE. That was nothing really it. But I remember telling people I wanted to be a personal trainer, and was doing that in college. That was the sort of route, PE teacher or personal trainer. I would get that qualification at the end of that. Didn't do well enough in school to go to like uni or do the course that way. Never really considered running my own business. Never really considered try to get my PT qualification by going through a course. I knew of it, inquired, and I was like, is there any older PTs? Because social media wasn't as popular as it is now, and I couldn't see any old PTs. So I was like, it must not be a career. And then I listened to like family and that sort of stuff, so I just went full time with my stepdad at the time. He was a marble mason. I guess another word for a bitch boy, taking all the heavy fireplaces up and down, which is good because I'm lifting weights at this time, and I'm like, yeah, I've got this heavy resistance during the day. I go train at night, all that sort of stuff. But again, quite good realised, I was like, can I make a lot of money here? And I remember my friend get a job with the railway, and I think I want to say it was like £27,000 a year, and I was like, oh my God, you're so rich if you've got that much money. So my concept of money was screwed from such a young age. And I grew up like where you wouldn't really ask those questions because it was like offensive to ask like how much money some people make, and I'm like, why? I was like, I want to know. Mm-hmm. So I had to figure this out myself. But this was what we're talking about, a maybe 7-year lesson until it got me to the point where I eventually quit and started running my own thing. But anyway, long story short, I was like, right, what can I do? Don't have any qualifications. Yeah, okay, I can work hard, but what's an easy job I can get? And I looked on your your Indeed and that sort of stuff. I seen a job for Sky, answering phones Monday to Friday. It was paying something like 19 grand a year, and I was like, I could sit in my arse all day and answer phones. Are you kidding me? What an easy job that would be. So I applied for Sky, applied for BT as an engineer, and then got offered an apprenticeship. And I was like, right, I'm gonna show up in this apprenticeship, and then that's how I got my first big boy job.
What age were you?
18, turning 19. So I just started actually working in the John Lewis call centres, and they sell you the dream of being a partner because you get a bonus every year. You wear a shirt and tie and all that sort of stuff. So it felt like formal and professional. And being a young guy, I was like, oh yeah, this is what a job is. This is a big boy job, a real job, as opposed to like turning up my trackies and sweeping floors and delivering fireplaces or sanding and all that sort of stuff. And they invited me in to interview for this apprenticeship, and initially nearly turned it down because I was like, I'm quite comfortable. I'm in working this John Lewis job. Like, this is a job for life type of thing. And it was my dad and that side of the family. It's like, no, that's a job for life. Like, this has got really good career opportunities. So I was like, fuck it, I'll take it.
People don't realise that that premise, that idea of a job for life was their generation. And we're going through this shift. We're moving from the industrial age to the technology age, and this job for life thing is not going to exist.
That's crazy, yeah. So I went to this was my first time interviewing for a place that it was like an all day thing. So you sat in a room with 20 other candidates, almost like the Apprentice side of things. But I loved that shit. I was like, oh, you can get real competitive with this. And they're obviously looking at skills of being a leader and all this sort of stuff. I didn't know any of this, but definitely from watching sports, playing sports, even gaming to an extent, I had a bit of confidence in that space. I remember like you had to build it was like almost like a factory setting. Everyone had Lego blocks. I don't know if you've seen these drills, and it'd be in your team, you've tried to build the Lego with each of the pictures from start to finish, but you have to work as a team, so everyone's to pick a station, and then you have to try and what's the quickest way to engineer this Lego block from nothing to whatever the picture is. And I remember I was like, I know this is I don't know where that came from, but I was like, I know this is a test to see how we work as a team, who takes charge in terms of leadership. And I remember that just feeling natural to me. So got the role. I think I across like 200 people. There was like 15 people picked, and I was like, this is cool. Like, this is quite important. And since then, I worked in that business for like 7 years and climbed through the ranks. No bore you to death with all the stories and that, but moved up and down the country, said yes to every opportunity. Couple of months in the door, I was like, right, cool, I've nailed this. What's the next role? I remember looking at the internal job news, and it's like, senior managers get paid like 60 grand and 80 grand. I was like, wow, like, imagine making that much money. So I thought I'm comfortable making my 20 odd grand or whatever it was. The apprenticeship was actually £11,000, but I knew at the end of it went to 27, so that carrot being dangled, I was like...
How long was the apprenticeship?
Year and a half. Oh, it was a year, but it was a year and a half before we got the kind of money done. So 3 months into this role, a manager role came up, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to apply for it. Because I was winning awards of being like, I don't know, we were, in fact, speaking of like jobs for life, we were one of the first people in that site, which is crazy, for like 30 years. Everybody had 20 years, 25, 30, 40 years worth of service for this business. And obviously the business model was like, you had all these people that are due to retire and nobody's in there. So we were the first kind of generation that come through.
Yeah, they're going to bring the new batch in.
And they were bringing all these new systems out, and just the oldies couldn't keep up to date with the computers. But being the kind of the younger generation that grew up with it, it was an easy thing for me anyway. So I remember that manager role came up. I applied for it. Also didn't do too well in the interview. I remember them saying like, love your ambition, definitely all the capabilities, but you just lack the experience just now. Like, you need to learn about coaching and leadership. And I was like, cool, I'll learn about that. So they put me into a coaching role. So they brought in another new batch of people. And again, this was just helping them with systems and that. And one of the guys I was helping, he's like, because I was into basketball at the time, like that was a sport. I didn't care for football. And you know the film Coach Carter, this guy turned to me, he's like, you're like Coach Carter, but it's Coach Crossar. And that's where my name stuck with. I changed my gamer tag and all that sort of stuff, which was, I liked that. I was like, oh, yeah, you know what, like, it's got a cool wee round to it. And was always fascinated with coaching in some form and manner. I thought I wanted to be a PT and that sort of stuff.
Have you memorised the poem for the film?
No, I've not. No. I should actually do that and kind of tweak some words into my own
That'd
sentence.
be cool.
So I remember that being a thing, but again, at that point in my life, it was never, oh, let's become a PT. It was always like, you get to do what you wanted in the coaching space in this corporate world and get paid a salary for it. But anyway, yeah, long story short, was in there for a couple of years, moved to Nottingham with Jill. Had met her up here and she got a job down south, and the company being as big as it was easy to transfer, and that became a really good opportunity. Got a management position pretty quickly. Started listening to audiobooks. Didn't know what self-awareness was or self-development, but...
What age are you at this point?
20 years
You're
old.
20 and you don't know what these things are. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it?
It's crazy. Like, I almost kind of looking back and I was like... Because podcast wasn't really a thing, right? YouTube... You would go on YouTube, maybe
you're watching somebody, like, you're watching funny fails and fat people fails on YouTube at this point.
That's what I mean. Like,
you're not going there for like deep
distraction,
like, deep knowledge of how I can improve myself.
Sort of stuff, yeah.
You're like, did somebody get a nuke on Call of Duty?
Yeah.
That's what you were going on there
honestly
for.
Was Halo 3, Call of Duty, all that sort of stuff, and that was my outlet. I was never a big drinker either, so it wasn't as if I was partying at weekends. It was a long-term relationship with Jill, so there was kind of no need for that sort of stuff. Like, just came in, done my own thing, and I was like, how do I become really good at this role so I can then get my eyes set in the next promotion? And I was just locked into that idea.
That's a corporate trap.
Yeah, but I remember when you go into management, this is where there's more development. You do your goal setting, you do your SMART goals. So I'm learning all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is cool.
You didn't like them, did you?
But I thought that was just BT's principle. I thought that was just the principles in this corporate world.
So you thought it was just a case of you were going in there, this is really niche to what they're doing, and you just feel that this is corporatized and this doesn't apply outside.
And at no point to me, I was like, oh, imagine you'd done this in your everyday life. Meanwhile, as I'm doing this with my career, my fitness journey is also evolving. So I'm in the gym 5-6 days a week. I'm watching Flex Lose, I'm watching all the bodybuilders, I'm watching my favourite fitness influencers and listening to what they're saying, applying it in the gym, trying to grow muscle. And then on my fitness journey, I tried to put a barbell on my back and I didn't have the ability to hold it. Like, my shoulders were just that tight. And I thought to myself, I was like, can it be right? 20 years old and you don't have the flexibility to turn round. And my ego was telling me at the time that, oh, that's just because you're so big. But in the grand scheme of things, it's because I was so tight, because I was so like so tight of just moving your body or not moving your body. So that led me down this path of, I wonder what else is out there. I've been training bodybuilding. Is that the only way? And started finding other methods. Started finding mobility drills and pursuing that journey at the same time. Done a bodybuilding show while I'm excelling through my career in BT, but I guess that in a way that was slowly become my identity, because I had an Instagram page and I was posting some fitness stuff.
What bodybuilding show did you go for?
So I done a your physique one where you wear the board shorts and that, but I've always had good legs, and what I liked about that is, like, the coach I was working with at the time, he's like, you get the biggest legs on stage and all that sort of stuff, and it was like you could see them through my board shorts, like. But again, it was just... Did
that play into your favour in that? Or were you looking to cover them up? Because it's all about proportion and symmetry there.
Aye, but see, at the amateur level, like, especially like first timers and all that, there's obviously, it's not as well polished and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's not as if I done what's the federation called? UKUP, one of the newer federations at the time. I don't even know if they're still kicking about now. But I was like, right, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then that whole prep was like a bit of an eye opener. I was like, didn't really know what calories I was doing. I was just following what the coach had given me, and I liked the idea of like learning more about it, and that then shifting me through to find these podcasts, do audiobooks, all these sort of things. And then that, as I'm like growing and getting better at my leadership job, I'm learning about people like Simon Sinek and John Maxwell, like some of the great minds of the leadership world, and I really like what they're saying. I'm like, wow, it's really cool, but surely that applies to everything in life. And
were you doing it just from like trying to get to be a
better in my job. Yeah, like I was looking at it, and I was always.
So this time you still in the corporate world?
Yeah, so I'm working down in Nottingham, and I'd always consider myself as the want to be the best leader for the team of people I had, and was learning like communication skills and all these certain things, how you deal with people, different walks of life, and all that sort of stuff. But then I started to find myself. I made the switch from training at night to training first thing in the morning. So I get up at 4, go to the gym, work out, and then I'd go to work because I found myself. I don't know. There was a lot of frustration with like working out at night after the day's been quite long. In the workplace, when the grand scheme of things, like it wasn't that long at all, but looking back, you're like, you're fried.
Funny your perspective then compared to what you would do
it is
now.
It's like I'd get like that. That's a piece. I know I could go back to those roles, do it with my eyes shut now. Yeah. Whereas at the time it seemed like the hardest challenge, but it absolutely wasn't. So I made this shift in the morning and started noticing personal trainers, and I'd see the same personal trainer. And I found myself, like, I was like, man, this...
You see them in the gym, or do you see them on social media?
No, I've seen them in the gym, seen them kind of dealing with their clients and seeing the same clients at the same... Because I'd go at the same time consistently, and then seeing them in the gym later on, I was like, imagine being in the gym all day, like, what a cool job. And I started to find myself muting my headphones and listening into the conversation of how they were talking to their clients and that. And that's really where I remember the idea being, like, in my head, I was like, that'd be a cool job to do, but it's not something that you'll ever do.
It's a bit fucking sneaky, is it not?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sitting there where I'll just pretend I've got my fucking music on.
Oh, tons of people do that in the gym, mate.
Oh, do they?
I think you'll be surprised. You think, oh, it's all right, they've got the headphones on.
Fucking
they didn't hear that.
creepy bastards sitting there like tactical espionage, like spies.
The thing is, I'm saying to myself, like, this is genuinely the conversations I'd have in my head. It's like, interesting he's explained it that way, because I would do it this way. And I just started being more and more curious about that whole role, the whole fitness stuff. Even the podcast I was listening to, it's like, you listen to any bit of information, you take that as, this is the answer, this is the be all and end all. But then the style of some of the podcasts I was listening to, people would ask questions in, and I'd be like, right, how would I answer this if this was someone sitting in front of me? And this is at the age of 22, 23. It takes me another 4 years to eventually make the leap. But basically, we're living in England. We were going to travel. That just seemed to be the thing that everyone was doing. And me and Jill were like, yeah, it'd be cool to do that.
What do you make of that shit?
I'm glad we didn't. Like, I think Jill has a different kind of view. I think she still wants to travel. But I like the idea of like travelling at my own. Like, see what we can do now.
You're better travelling when you're caked. See this backpacking like, carry on, like, going and scraping money together and all that.
Do you think there's ever a time for it though? And like, truthful, I've met people in my life and I'm like, you need to see the world, man. Like, you honestly need to just get out and learn some fucking...
No, I agree that what I'm saying is that I agree that going and seeing the world is a really good thing to do. But just jump, like, when you see, what I mean, is like people that are like, I'm going to go sort of backpacking for a year.
Yeah.
I don't really think you're seeing the world. It's a bit... Are you fully experiencing the world at that point, or are you just going down a path? Are you going down a path? It's like a path that people just think, oh, that's the thing to do, and it seems to be, some degree of fad. I've never spoke to anybody that went, I had a life changing fucking trip when I went backpacking to Australia. All they do is they go to Australia, get absolutely pissed, travel through the sort of Philippines, Indonesia, and then come back, and they're like, all right, so you went to somewhere where it was really cheap, you got absolutely bluttered, and then you came back.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think for me, if I look at my move from, I know it's not quite Australia, but from here to Nottingham, doing that with Jill and being so focused on developing ourselves and our characters and our careers and that sort of stuff, that was the mentality
how
we had.
Use aligned? Like, how we use aligned as a couple?
So
like,
there's a bit of this that's just pure luck. And it's generally a part, like, I remember sitting down before, I was like, because I knew when me and Jill moved to Nottingham, we went through our ups and downs like any couple do, but we clicked really well. And I remember we went to Thailand for a holiday, and it's the day I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to marry this girl. Because I sat down, we had this open conversation there, like, what do we want to do with life? We were on the same path into 23, 24. Right. So as my self-development part
early days, man.
But we'd been together since we were 18, 19.
Right. So you're 6 years in at this point.
Yeah, so like, saw Jill's sister get married, and it's like the usual when one sister's married, so, oh, you're next. And got me thinking. It's like, right, cool. If I'm going to marry the person I want to be forever, it's like, what's the qualities that I'm looking for? And we
Did you think that 100% of the time, or was this just like a fleeting thing that you thought?
Well, when I made the decision to...
Are you thinking that I want to marry this girl? Is it 100% of the time that this thing's happening?
I don't know. You think you have the idea. You have the idea in your head, don't you?
But you doubting it when, you know, she's really driving you crazy.
No, I'll tell you when I doubted it. It was the night I asked her out, because I was like we had been seeing each other, and I was like, right, the wee guy thing where it was 18, 19, 18, and I'm like, right, I want to make this more official. Do you want to like date for more serious? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, right, cool. And then as my car had broke down, so she dropped me off, and she was like, by the way, like, my mum and dad are split up, so I never want to get married. And I remember going, oh shit, I want to get married. I was like, fuck.
Why did you want to get married?
I just thought I wanted to be married to somebody, want to have kids, want to have a family.
Did you do that shit when you were young? Did you dress up with like like the lassies do with the pillowcase and pretend they were getting married?
Have wee dolls and all that and play in the house. But I don't know, it was just an idea like...
What the fuck happened to you that you want to get married at 18?
No, get married at 18. I just knew the partner that I was choosing at that time was like, I was always in...
Did you tell any of your pals this?
I'm open about this.
Did they rip the shit right out of you? They should
that's
have
the thing, I never had like
fucking totally hazed the life out of you for
so
this
I don't know
stuff.
if I never had like this big friendship group.
See if I was your pal, I'd have came in with a veil and I'd have came in with a gown and everything. I'd have ripped the fucking utter piss out of you.
What are you doing when you're that young? I think I just grew up and was like, okay, you go out with someone, you don't think about long-term things, but at the age of 18, 19, my vision in my 20s, which obviously hasn't happened, but I was thinking house, kids, wife, decent career.
Yep.
That'll be all achieved by the age of 25, because 25 seems so old at that age.
I never thought of that.
Nah. No. So I think that's where, like, again, at that time, I don't know much about
like
self-awareness.
My missus earned it. I was like, right, I'm not really even sure I want to do this, but she has earned this this right, this title. If anybody's earned this title, it's my wife. It's like for you know, handling me, she's earned this.
Yeah.
You know, with the kids and stuff like that, it was cool to have all the same names, and I was like, but never was I like, oh, you know, the night of asking her out and making it official, going, I want to marry this girl.
Wasn't it like we still had to kind of go through. It's like, I don't know who she is, and that's what in my head I'm like, interesting. It's like the person I want to be with is somebody who wants to get married. But then I was like, you know what? Let's just see where it goes. And
did she maybe just throw that out because she thought you were moving too fast?
maybe
she slung that in there.
Maybe it was, but so she got like a year into her relationship, she got offered a graduate job down in England, and she was like, I don't know if I can take that. And I was like, well, I probably could get a transfer. I was like, why don't we just do it? So that whole thing, like, you look back on it,
what was it like living in England?
It's good. It's almost, and that's what I mean, like that comparison, like going abroad and getting life experiencing. It's almost the exact same. Different accents, they can't understand you. It's all the same, different, like even warmer weather, right in the Midlands. And to be honest, it was quite cool being in a site, because you're the only Scottish person on the site, and you're like this weird tropical foreign person in a way. Like even in England, I think I still quite like the sort of attention you would get. I was like, fuck me, you're Scottish? I was like, yeah, I'm Scottish. They kind of fear you in a wee way, a bit away as well. So how
do they fear you? You're the most fucking compassionate, nice. Like as a representation of Scotland, you're what we should send. Because the other end of the scale is what they hear about. You know, the nut job that's going to give you the Glasgow kiss and goes off their fucking rocker at just about anything. Like, you're patient and calm and empathetic and compassionate.
They were all skills I'd learned through being a leader in the corporate space, because you need a little bit more empathy when it comes to how you're dealing with people in the corporate setting, because you can't be as cutthroat as what you are with running your own business. So that's where that compassion and empathy side definitely comes from. The whole corporate world, the whole leadership side of things, and it definitely separated me from the older leaders in that place for sure, because they were always numbers driven.
Did anybody ask if you were gay?
No. No, it wasn't that compassion in the sense of, like, you're meeting someone where you're at, but there's still a job that needs to be done. There's still results that need to be hit, and it's figuring out how do we get you there? But the flip side of that, kind of realising that having to sack people and let people go, it's like, man, this really challenges. This is quite a challenging thing to do. I think obviously you wouldn't struggle with that as much, but I think anyone would have that as a challenge, especially being a younger guy. That was always a hard thing. I noticed. I was like, when I got promoted to becoming a leader, me and this other guy got promoted at the same time. He got the new guys coming into the business so much easier from a confidence side of things to lead. I got the guys that were 20, 30 years in the business, and I'm like, I'm going to listen to this young guy. So I had to win them over, win their trust and all that sort of stuff. And I quickly had the best team in that site in terms of the revenue.
I mean, that's an ideal situation because you're going to have a better learning. You're going to, although the other guy's going to have an easier trip with the guys, you're going to have way more skills to deal with people than he will because he's got essentially new, young, fresh blood.
Aye.
And you need to undo all these sort of misconceptions about a younger leader leading older guys.
I think I gained a lot of respect as well, but I remember thinking, I was like, if only I could have got that younger team, I'd be so much better. But it was the flip side. It was honestly the flip side.
Isn't it crazy that life throws you these things and it at the time you would think that you've got the wrong end of the deal, but it actually sets you up for your future.
It's the best thing that could happen for you.
It's like life sort of knows.
Aye, and that whole experience, definitely. I would never say I wish I went into personal training sooner, although you still do. More time, better. You get to craft it, but everything happens for a reason, and that certainly was a chapter in my life that led me to excelling so quickly when I did quit my job. So
it's curious. I find it weird that you have this name, Coach Crossar, and I thought it was you're coaching people PT, and I didn't realise it came from being a
it seemed natural. But I got to learn all these skills of what being a coach really is, and learning all those skills and how you communicate to someone. And we go through all these shitty leadership training. I remember going through like the third or fourth one, and I was like, this is a tick in the box exercise. I think you know Simon Sinek, don't you? So he's great mind, like great guy. Start with why.
That's the book they wrote, wasn't it? The blue book.
Some idiot in the corporate space that one of the leaders had obviously listened to that and went, right, we need to roll this out to everyone, and just made it corporate, right? You know what I mean? It's like they managed to make this corporate, so it then became our core values, and I'd seen the business's core values change that much that I was like, it's a load of rubbish, man. Like we're getting so disconnected for what we need to do as a business. And I think as that was happening, I was convincing myself that my purpose wasn't the lines and broadbands, but I was like, you know what, I can make these people enjoy the job that they come to. And
you know
that
sort of stuff. Like this is the thing that I lose a bit. You know my thoughts on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn to me is a hyperbolic version of the corporate world in corporate speak.
Yep.
And the reason that I find it so, inauthentic or just sort of, it's just surface virtue signaling, box ticking.
Aye.
That they think that there's a formula of saying things in a particular way and showing things in a particular way that will elevate you, get your attention, put you in the spotlight, or allow you to get in a higher position. And it's show ponying, and all like to the point of we don't know who you are because you are following this.
You also don't even know what they're saying. It's just a bunch of highly, like, not even high, just a bunch of jargon that's thrown out there
just
to make it
nouns.
sound.
It's just like somebody fucking machine gunning nouns.
ChatGPT, like just a generic statement that gets thrown out there.
I mean, even if you ask AI, if you put in AI, if you want a fucking hook, go and write something out and say, I'm wanting to post this on fucking Twitter, and then go and say, I want to do it.
It does it on the AI things that we use, and it's
put it on
YouTube,
LinkedIn.
put it on LinkedIn, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit?
It's just garbled nonsense. And what the AI is doing is going, this is the language that these people use on this platform. And you go, I don't know who you are. And this is the thing with the corporate world, is people are being funneled into this. The word gaslighting is probably strong, but it's not far off it, where you're going, look, this is the mold, and we're going to funnel you to this mold. Here's what we need you to look like. Here's what we need you to sound like. And naturally, over a long enough period of time, if you're in that environment, guess what you start doing? Acting, looking, and sounding like it. And then go, well, I don't know who you are, because you're using this sort of corporate short speak You know, and it drives people nuts.
And I think that's why, again, why me and this other guy, we were the kind of younger guys, young chaps in this site that went from 30 people to 200. And as the site was growing, we became the kind of the young leaders that we'd done things differently. We had fun with it. We kind of loosened the reins a little bit, but again, we were still restricted by all this red tape. Like, all this is kind of coming back to me. I kind of suppressed all this stuff, but like, just parts of one of your targets is try and make the site more efficient and not spend as much money. And it was a matter of like tweaking one thing on a system, right? Yes, it might have cost the developers X amount of money, but that tweak was returning tenfold, whatever it was. Can't remember the numbers. And I remember like we took this idea and it's like, yeah, we could do that, but nah, we're not going to do that. We'll just reduce the head count by the site by two people, because then that's 2 less salaries we need to pay. And it's like, what the fuck? Like,
so they've made the decision to sack 2 people because
in the way, like, it's quite funny. This is another thing. You start learning about corporate politics and numbers and all this sort of stuff, which from a business side of things, it sort of got me more curious, but you didn't quite have the steering wheel of where you wanted, regardless of how high you got in the company. And that was a realisation in one of my last roles. I was like, I keep climbing this ladder and it's almost like we're getting dumber and dumber the higher up the scale we go, because you're speaking like advanced LinkedIn. That's really what it comes down to, and you're so disconnected from the front line. But I think that's where businesses and our leaders that were coming into the business had been senior leaders in different businesses, and they were just sidestepping, as opposed from, I'd came through, I was on the front line. How do we deal with customers? What's the frustrations? Or blah, blah, blah. What systems don't work? Why is it taking so long to do X, Y, and Z? And I'm going through each one of the stages, and that gave me this insight and perspective that I could bring to these calls. But it was always met with, yeah, but we could just do it this other way, because this is what we've done for years. And it's like, but why? I I honestly would love to go back into the world knowing what I've done now over the last couple of years. Like, I used to be, if somebody was senior than you, you'd be like, oh, when they want to step on their toes, it's like, oh, you've got a higher paid position than me. You are more senior, so I need to respect you and all that. A load of shit, all that.
Do you ever remember
stuff.
the story? I don't know if I've definitely said it on the podcasts. I don't know if you've maybe heard it about Phil in Canary Wharf. So Phil was his guy who's an amputee. He was involved. He was on episode 2 and 4 of my podcast,
okay.
And he was involved in the decision making process to cut his limbs off. So he was in pain. He was, I think, 5 or 6 years old, and made the decision. He's like, I just want to play with my friends at school, and this is causing me havoc. Like, just give me prosthetic legs. So he's amputated from the knee down. Mm-hmm. So he's got prosthetic limbs, and I would have never known this because Phil to me walked perfectly, and probably because he was so young and adapted to them quickly. But he was involved in the decision to essentially cut his legs off, because all he wanted to do was fit in and play with his pals. Mm-hmm. And I remember, still remember the night that he told me. We were at a seminar, we were at a trading seminar. Phil was learning to trade. I was coming in to learn about how to do it. And we used to meet up, and it was a great way to catch up with guys. You know, the trading world's really quite a lonely world if you're doing it yourself. Yeah. And you can't really talk to anybody because it's such a technical
you need to be
thing.
dialed. Yeah.
It's such a nuanced technical thing. Like, you can't talk shop to anybody. It's not like I'm going to sit with the missus and tell her about the VIX has went up today, so I'm expecting volatility in the S&P 500 and the options expiry on the third Friday of the month. She's like, what are you talking about? But with Phil, you could talk shop. So Phil, this seminar, we'd rushed to get down there. Phil's not had anything to eat. I've not had anything to eat. They had an open bar afterwards, and he says, look, why don't we get a few drinks? So I was like, right, cool, we'll get a few drinks. Back in the day when I was drinking, I was like, okay, we'll get a few beers. And I could drink really like no end. So people thought I had hollow legs. I could just scoop that much alcohol, which is not a great thing. I don't recommend it. But that was the current geo setting. Now, Phil didn't drink a lot, but for some reason he got 3 or 4 pints into him.
The same rounds.
And I'm thinking to myself, we've not had anything to eat yet. We need to slow up here, or this is you're heading for a bit of train wreck here. But Phil was pissed, and I mean pissed, and I'm like, you all right? So I'd got him a pizza and some chips. I was like, get them in here, and he's like, got something to show you. Like, the fuck is he got? What's coming out here? And he pulled up his leg and showed me his prosthetic legs, and tells me the story.
Didn't know that at the time? Oh, wow.
I don't know, but I just took to him straight away. Like we hit it off, and I liked him. I just liked, you know, it was just real. You know, and what a cool like life he has got. He's done work for the Ministry of Defence. Like he's cyber security, so he's really good at the cyber security sort of arena, and he's been involved. I can't tell you what he's done, but he's been involved in securing the technology side of some really important things.
Stuff,
and he, you know, I was asking him about like what was his like story. And he tells like just the corporate world story, like he get involved with a bank. He was working down at Canary Wharf, young dude. He was like, it was brilliant, Gio. He's like Canary Wharf, had an apartment in London, just
living the
like,
life,
just the boy about town, out of the guys. But he's rising up just like you were doing. And he remembers he gets called to this sort of boardroom meeting, and he sees the list of people that are on the boardroom that he gets in his head massively. And he's telling a story about how this imposter syndrome is literally suffocating him. Where he's sitting there thinking, why am I at this meeting? There is like, these are the who's who of this bank. Why have they called me in? And what, like, he's just been completely swamped. He says, he's like, Gio, the sweat, I couldn't take my jacket off because I was sweating that much that my shirt would have been see-through, so I kept my jacket on, which making the sweat worse. So the board meeting starts, and he's just like sinking into his chair, and he's like, I've never felt more out of place my whole life than in this meeting. And he says, and then within 5 minutes, listening to the chat, he's like, it was quite clear to me that nobody in this boardroom had not a fucking clue what they were talking about.
It's such a similar story to that. Like, you would go to these, and every time I went to them, it's almost because you change departments. Like, you get different strands in BT or in the overheads of BT. It strands out to OpenReach and different sectors. And every time I'm in one, and I'm like, I get to that level, it's like fucking shake. You're literally shaking, and you got to ask a question. You feel the quiver in your voice and all that, and then you're listening for a while, and you're like, nobody knows what they're talking about. I was like, they're so fucking disconnected. And then as you go through that, the more time you spend there, the more confident you get. And I think that's really where I started challenging a lot of the ideas a wee bit more to the back end of my career. But so that spark, that started that was lit. It was definitely the goal, the vision was set there. I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be one of the youngest managers, because that first interview I was telling you about, the guy high up, he's like, youngest site manager we've ever had is 29 years old. And I'm in the company at 20. I'm like, cool, I'm going to make sure I beat that. Gave me some metrics to beat, like competitive nature within me. And got to go all these different roles. And when I got there, it then became more about money. It just became like, cool, the more money I have, the nicer things I can buy. Never really materialistic. It was, I guess, what was it? I don't know what that was, if I'm being honest. I genuinely don't know where that came.
Well, you don't know what was, you mean, in terms of your desire for money?
Yeah, I really don't know where that...
It's usually, I mean, this is what people don't understand, is like you say to them, like when I do a lot of goal setting with people, because I know how difficult it can be setting a goal if you've not done it. And especially for the likes of yourself that have been in the corporate world, if you've had goal setting rammed down your throat, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So like when someone says, have you set your goals, it triggers off this memory of corporate world, which
it's like, what's your goal setting? It's like, I want to get my call handling time down from 3 minutes to 2.5 minutes. It's like, it doesn't amount to any sort of purpose. It's just fucking numbers.
Your soul is offline at this point.
Your reins.
Your goal should resonate with your soul.
Oh, for sure.
And your soul, your call handling time at 2 minutes 30 is like, it's left the chat. It's not in the chat at this point. It's like, look, I don't know what this is, but you in the meat suit can deal with this.
It's like none's there. So, but yeah, like it was that simple, and I think that's where in your corporate setting, I was getting fulfillment through learning about coaching, learning about leadership, starting to, I guess, dominate that part where I was like, right, cool, what's the next thing? The next thing would be either move sideways or move upwards. Can I move upwards in this role? Well, not really, because my manager's been there for X amount of years. she's really good at what she does. The only way I can get her role is if she quits or moves on. And that's like the natural order. The higher up the chain you get, that's sort of what the roles end up being. Or the business shifts and there's a big reorg, and that's where there's then opportunity. So that at that point, I think that's where maybe me and Jill started questioning ourselves, and we were going to move to London.
In terms of your relationship, or you mean what you were doing?
Just what we wanted to do. Like, I think relationship-wise, we were pretty solid. Yeah. It just became like, I mean, Jill's got her own story with her things as well. Like, she moved down for BHS. That was the graduate job. Within 3 months.
British Home Stores?
Yeah. Within 3 months, redundant. And it was like, oh, fuck. But then she got a job in Boots' head office, and again was opened up to this world of a lot of the things she'd done at uni and marketing and all these sort of things. So that was, she was getting her fulfillment with that. But again, we then were moving through these roles, and we reached a stage where it was like, right, cool, it's the next step up or the side across. We've done this a couple of times now. What more do we want from life? And it's like, we went to London for like a weekend trip, and Jill was like, be cool to live here. And it's like, let's see if we can do it. It was that simple. There was no grand plan, and it was just, let's do that. And then that then evolved to, why don't we try this with a different continent? Why don't we just, everybody's going to Australia. Why don't we try and do that and see what careers we can make out there? Got our visas, ready to move, and Jill's mum fell or got diagnosed with breast cancer. So kind of threw a spanner in the works. It didn't feel right moving away. The doctors and everything's like, here, go away. We still want you to go away, but I think the characters that we of us both, it's like didn't make sense to. So the plan then became, let's get home. Mm-hmm. Jill moved home first. I looked at roles, and this was the part of my career journey, I think, that gave me the most space to assess what the fuck do I want to do with my life. And
did you feel lost at this point, or was there any sort of ebbing, sort of nagging doubt where you were like, I don't know if this is where I want to be? Because it sounds like you were in this upward tunnel of, right, we're going to keep you in this sort of funnel, for lack of a better word, and you're going to keep pushing up and pushing up and pushing up and pushing up. But it sounds like something's trickling in where you're going, not really sure if...
So I think the part for me was, you get your bonus every year, right? The bonuses came out, grafting my arse off, and the company done, there was something happened in the open reach start of the business, so no one got as high a bonus as they wanted, or as what they had in previous years. It was what it was, and got your bonus, and you're like, all right, cool. Next year I get it. So for the next year, also we had just been promoted at that point. The second year run through, I'm saying to my boss, I was like, what do I need to do to get the maximum increase, work my way through my salary bracket, and get the highest amount of bonus? She's like, this, and this. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to knock that, and that out the park. Brought in the most amount of money to the site from a sales perspective, had the best engagement when it came to team, just created a really good environment for my guys to be in. Bonuses come out again the next year. Again, something always happens in these businesses, so they're like, oh, we can't pay you as much, so here's your
fucking accountants.
Here's your amount of percent.
They're always getting what they're fucking due, but not everybody else gets shafted.
So what pissed me off was, I was like the right hand of my site. Well, the site manager that I had, like, there was maybe like 3 of us who were really good managers, the rest were like subpar, and the 3 of us went above and beyond on everything that we'd done. Like, no, the 8 to 4, like 8 to 8, staying behind everything that you can imagine for like a year's graft. And my site manager, she had the ability to choose who gets more percent in their bonus and that. So her right hand, who she's worked beside for 10 plus years, gets a nice big chunk. She's got a higher salary, which is fair, right? But then me and the guy who got promoted at the same time, you're just talking, it's like, oh, cool, I've got my biggest bonus ever. I'm still chuffed with it. And then here he got like £700 extra in me, which then clicked in my head that she's valued what he's done over what I done. And that just sort of broke this, I don't know, the only way I can imagine, it's like there was a glass ceiling that I thought, or these glass steps that I was walking up, and someone just shattered them, and I was like, I'm really letting my life be dictated by someone's opinion, and I don't have control over that person's opinion. They can do whatever they want, no matter how well I perform, how good I perform, because you literally, in terms of results on paper and everything that was achieved, I was above both of them. I wasn't, but from a relationship point of view, the relationship was still stronger between the manager that was working beside her. And that just got to me. I was like, right, cool. I'm not going to be like salty or anything about this, but I'm going to look at other opportunities and see what I can do. And I started applying for other roles. I then seen every now and then these sort of trainings would come up, and I can't remember what it was I applied for, but I was like, I want to go on this training course to develop my leadership capabilities, and I was told no because I was looking at other opportunities within the same company. I was like, that makes no sense at all. And the way, it wasn't my boss, it was my boss's boss, the kind of senior of that. The way he explained it to me, it's like, well, we've got a budget to spend, so why would I spend my budget on someone like yourself who's going to leave our line of business? And I get it from a business perspective. I was like, I'm just a fucking number. I was like, doesn't matter what I do here, doesn't matter how long I stay here, it doesn't really amount to anything. So I was like, right, cool, let me see what I can do. Moved, and then I eventually got this role, which was, it was more of a sidestep, but I only applied for it because it was night shift working, and it was a fucking piss easy job, if I'm being honest. I didn't apply to be, I was trying to get back home to Scotland, but I took this job in Sheffield. It was 4 days on, 4 days off, 12-hour shift. And by making that one move, I got like, I think it was like a 12 grand pay rise, less responsibility, dead easy work. And I was like, what's going on here? I was like, how are these guys paid more than what I was just doing there? And
you were doing more work for less money with more responsibility, and then you moved.
I was watching Netflix on the night, because the job role was, if anything goes wrong with any system, so for example, your mobile phone, you found out when the network goes down, that was the team that we would organise all the tech guys from offshore and all that sort of stuff to get in a call and fix the problem. That's what your role was. Dead easy role, and paid really highly for it. And that's what kind of started getting me thinking. I was like, I could do this forever. This is easy peasy. It's all about money. Made the most amount of money that I'd ever had at this point, but I had all this quiet time. So we gave up the rented house in Nottingham. Jill moved home. She got a job. And then I was like, did I get a house in Sheffield? And I was like, I'm only here for 4 days. And that's where I made the decision. I was like, let Jill know. I was like, look, I'm not going to get a house. I'm going to sleep in my car. I was like, pure gym membership, get showered. There's a kitchen in the workplace. It's a 24-hour building. I'll make this work. And she's like, you're mental, you can't do that. And I was like, no, like, just let me try it out for a couple of weeks. And I'd done that for like 7-8 months, where just rinsed and repeated that. So there was a lot of downtime, a lot of quiet time. 5-hour drive from where Jill's mum stayed in Falkirk. I'd come up for the 4 days. So it's a 4-hour journey, listening to podcast, audiobooks on the things that I'm finding enjoyment from. The passion for fitness is starting to grow more and more and more. And when I'm down there, I finish my shift and I'm just sitting. And I'm just sitting in the lorry car park where all the guys, they're going to bed, and I'm in my car. Like, I was like, I'm going to look back at this time one day, and it's going to be interesting to see where I was going to be. Didn't know what that dream was. It still wasn't about personal training. It was just, I'm making good money there, and I need to find a way to keep this money and move home.
When did it dawn on you that you were like, you knew what you were going to do? Or did you fall into it by accident?
No, it wasn't necessarily by accident. It was more, so I'm doing this job in Sheffield, and I'm like, I'm looking around and I'm starting to learn about fitness, and I'm starting to learn about the detriments of your health of shift workers. And I'm looking around and I'm like, fuck man, I was like this.
As you're doing a night shift, watching Netflix, sleeping in a car.
So like I'm starting to learn about your circadian rhythm, the importance of why we sleep during the night and wake up during the day. And you could always push through. I was always a gamer, so I would always game through the night, and so I'm experiencing this anyway. And I'm like, doing this long term, this isn't the role. This isn't what I want to do. Could I make it work? I'll make it work just now, but I need to find something else. And then I moved into I moved back into the leadership world because I kind of missed it. I was like,
what did you miss about it?
Just leading a team of people, because I'd moved away from it, and it was like one of them. You're in a role, you're doing what you're doing. You're like, man, this can be quite hard at times. It can be quite stressful. You're taking all the work home. Then I moved to a job where you finish your shift and it doesn't matter what happened. You have someone that takes over your responsibility and it's handed off to them. So I had all this free time, no as much noise in your head. And I thought, I could go back to leading a team of people. And when I went back to it was so much easier because I had this new perspective. I was like, that was actually really easy to do before. So I took a job in Edinburgh. Again, higher paying money or the same money. That was the kind of catch. I was like, I don't want to go back down in salary. So I managed to land a bigger position, bigger team members, bigger site to run. Done that. COVID started hitting, so I get caught up in that world of how business was going to still operate and all the shenanigans that went on with that. And then again, I was like pretty bored about 3-4 months in. And I was like, I've lost that spark. And I wonder why I've lost that spark. And I was like, maybe I just need a bigger challenge. So let me go for the role above me. Went for that. Moved sideways to the engineering side. I was like, it'll be cool to, rather than manage an office team, let me manage a site, let me manage an area with all these engineers, and I get to go out, I get a company car, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know anything about engineering, but I'll apply for this role. And I was the only guy that never came from an engineering role that got that job. And I was almost like frowned upon by some of the other people there, but I was good talk, a good game, and I felt my leadership skills were pretty good. And I took that role, and I remember 2 weeks in after taking that role, I was like, oh shit. I was like, spark's gone. Because I went on the manager calls, you sat round the table, you do your same shit, and it was the same dance, it was the same politics. It was just a different.
Remember we discussed the 6 things that are in life.
I'm working through it.
Yeah, you're working through it, and what you're looking for is you're looking for that purpose, and you've got a high desire to serve others. But this isn't giving you purpose, because although it looks and seems and smells like what you want, it's hollow.
So the part there was like, is drawn to this development of people, because you're saying all these words, you're goal setting, you're doing all this, and I'm like, I like all this. I'm listening to John Maxwell. I fucking love running the business, and I'm like, I don't get to run the business. Doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter how high I get in this business. I'll never have full control over what we do. And don't get me wrong, the engineering world, you could be a wee bit more relaxed in what you could do. But yeah, that was a month in, and I'm like, I was like, do I just make this? And I'm trying to think if I'm listening to this podcast, this fitness podcast, and I've convinced myself at this point I could make that work. So I built a gym in my garage, and I trained Jill and trained the odd people at work. When you're the fitness guy at work, so I was like, what do you do? And you give them a plan, and it's absolute dog shit, but they're like, okay, I'll follow this. It's like, Sharon's never going to do a 6-day-a-week bodybuilding split when she's never stepped foot in the gym. So there's a part that I don't learn, but I had this part in my gym, and a couple of friends were asking me, it's like, can I come over and get trained or train you, get trained by you? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So I started doing that. That's where the side hustle started coming. So this was like January. By the end of January, I realised, I don't know if this is what I want to do.
With the side hustle, or
the main job. And I thought, right, let me try this whole coaching side of things. So I started posting some fitness content. Started posting like why eggs aren't bad for you, like just shit stuff, like stuff I was learning that I was like, here, this is what for me. And then that got a couple of friends of friends to say, are you coaching anyone? And I was like, get the garage gym, why don't you come round? I didn't want to take money off them, but the people wanted to give me money, so I took like £10 a session, and I was doing this as well as my other job. Like I've got my Teams call with the managers on the background, and I'm like, right, let's do some squats, and I'm teaching them the squats and all that sort of stuff. And I loved every minute of it, and I was like, right, I need to get a game plan of how I get away from that to this. And the crux was, we had bought a house, we were getting married, and that was the kind of only financial risk. So very clear in my head was like 3 months savings.
But you've got the big thing, and we've discussed this. The big thing is you're balls deep in the world of I've took big commitments financially, and you also have this safety net. Now it's the perception of safety, because if you know that you've let some people go, you know that the job isn't as safe as people think it is, but they have this perception of safety. But the hardest thing people do is letting go of the safety net. It's like if you walked a tightrope, and you walk the tightrope with the safety net, and you think, oh, I'm the greatest tightrope walker in the world. But if I fall, you've never fell yet, but you go, if I fall, then the safety net's there. Take the safety net away, you go, it's like you forget that you ever walked a tightrope, and you go, I don't know.
It's just like all these things are coming back to us. There's another thing that happened in that move. So I moved to the role I was in, managing the site, to the engineers. I'm sure that salary was, so my bracket cap would have always been 45. And again, it's when you achieve it, it's like, oh my God, I'm making so much money. You get your pay slip and you're like, is that it? So it's like, right, what's next? So the role I was moving to was like a lot more senior, but the top bracket was like, I think it was like 45 to 60. And someone got brought in externally at the same time that I got to know when we went on one of our training days. And I remember asking him, I was like, out of curiosity, like, what salary did you get bring on in? His was 10 grand more than mine. and he knew nothing about the business, and he was taking ages to like learn about it and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, right, again, I'm getting shafted. So I brought it on my 1-to-1, and the conversation with my manager at the time was, well, we're going to pay someone externally more than we will internally because we want to attract new talent. And I remember hearing that and going, that is the dumbest fucking thing I could have ever heard. And I was like, that was it. It was like the nail in the coffin, really. And I was like, I want to control my fate. I want to control what I do. And I think with all of that backed up, finding something that I loved, it was like, I will make this work. There was a bit of me that's like, oh, you're getting a decent salary, you're making more than enough money than what you're spending. So it wasn't exactly materialistic or anything like that. So it's comfortable, but I was like, I could take a role that was another 10 grand more and another 10 grand more. And there's a big part of me where that spark, like it's like the light's off on it. There's nothing there fulfilling me. And as I start to teach or coach some friends, and then I coach friends of friends, and then I start building up this little clientele, I'm like, fucking love this. Like, this is what I need to do. It seems
like what you've described is that the high value that you got was in helping people, and that was what was filling the desire for you to continue. Bigger teams, bigger opportunities, more difficult groups to deal with, engineering that you knew nothing about, but you had this desire to teach people, and the way that you measured it was the salary, and the salary not so much as the money, but the recognition of how good a job you're doing was measured by where you fit in the salary bracket.
That's what you think.
Then you were going and looking at it and going, well, if I'm doing the best job I possibly could, and I know the business that well, and I've done the tricky teams, and I've managed to pull off the things that traditionally are very difficult, dealing with older guys, being a younger leader, going into a role where you have always promoted engineers, and I'm not an engineer. You're doing all the tricky tasks, which is showing your credibility as a leader and being able to adapt and adjust and get the results, which has been totally kiboshed by bringing someone else in on a higher salary, not monetary, but your measurement in your head is whoever is the best should get the most.
Yeah.
Right, that's the scorecard, if you like. So somebody's getting a higher version of a scorecard that's clearly not as experienced, that clearly is taking more time than you to learn, and is clearly not got the same results. So now you're getting that bad taste in your mouth where you're going, hey, I'm not being properly appreciated for what I'm doing. And I'm putting all this graft and effort into this to make a company better and not getting rewarded, and more importantly, not getting recognised.
And you do the math on it as well. That your average increase each year is anywhere from 2.5% to 5%. So yeah, you get bring in 10 grand less. That's a good 3-4 year commitment before you reach that level of where that second person in. So yeah, the money part of it is one thing, but it's also the time. I'm like, I'm going to spend X amount of years committed to this role.
Yep.
To get to that same level, and that just kind of left a bad taste. So yeah, 6 months into that role, I eventually saved up money and done my PT course, done that online, and made the leap and handed in my notice. And the good old people pleaser in me, I stayed another 3 months more than I should have, just to help the business out and all that sort of stuff. And yeah,
how many people have heard that? Can you help the business out? Like the business needs a help out. Like the business gives a shit about you. What they're basically saying is, we wanted you in here and we thought you would stay, and we undercooked it, and we're now in a bit of a pickle. And can you help us out?
So your my notice period was about a month, and I ended up taking 3 months notice. But I remember that conversation. I remember so many conversations telling people what I was doing, people I'd worked with over the years, because you move different different lines of business and all that. So I had a ton of great friendships and contacts. Like, you're mental for going to that, or it's always, I know such and such who became a PT, and he's back on the phones, or he's back doing this, and I'm like, I don't care what happens, as I'm confident that I can come back into this workplace or this work world and do just as good, if not better. But I didn't have the confidence then to say, I will make this work. But very quickly, I was like, I'm going to make this work.
You should have watched the fucking Tiger interview.
I should have. I should have. So all this sort of stuff. This is at the age of 27. And I remember I videoed the call, so I was so nervous. I just done it from my perspectives. I was like, this is a life-changing moment for me. You just know. Like, I think deep down when I was sleeping in my car, and I remember, like, you don't talk to yourself, but you're in your own thoughts. And I remember going, wonder where I'm going to be in 5 years' time. I was like, what's going to happen to me? Like, am I going to look back on this and go, that was a crazy time of life. So it's quite cool to see that a couple of years down the line, it's like these were all moments that made me or got me to where I am now.
You ever watch a video back?
Yeah, I watched it back last year. So I phoned him and you can't really hear what he's saying, but I remember him saying along the lines like, "You sure this is something you want to do? Like, you're one of the youngest guys we've had in this position. You're a great leader, you're this and you're that." And I remember going, "Yep, I've made my mind up." And for someone like, and this must be hard for someone who's committed to the corporate sentence. Like,
their perspective's different for yours. They can't see your perspective.
But I think that's a sign of a poor leader. I came across a lot of people who got really salty when someone in their team left. But equally, I had a lot of people in my team that would move on to other roles, and it was always like, "Look, I'm back you 100%." I think that's where I started seeing that there's more to life than what BT or
I remember
business is.
Talking about visualization, just on the same theme of what you're talking about. I remember sitting in, I think the desk was like a grey, narrow desk with like one tray and another tray on top of it and a laptop, and I'm typing out my big goals. And I had no business writing out these goals, Dale. No business. But it was the art of visualization, and I remember typing them out. It was like a basic Word document. I mean, we are talking the most rudimentary of goal setting that you can get. And essentially writing out on this 20 quid Argos desk with this old bag of shit laptop in the middle of the credit crunch, the entire world financially is fucking imploding. And I'm writing out, I'm going to be a property guy and I'm going to have this amount of properties and this is what income that I want, and I want a 911 turbo. And I'm, I know that I'm living in a first floor flat, and I'm wanting this big house, and I want a garage, and I want fucking supercars, and I wanted, all the like these sums and like these metrics that I can measure. And I remember writing it down, and the beauty of the Word document is still got it.
Yeah.
And I remember finding it years later, and I'd done every single thing bar one on the list in way quicker a time. And open it up, and I was like, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking back, you go, I remember him.
Oh, it's so powerful though. It's so good. It's so good to do. And I knew like I'd shat away from that call a couple of times. So I'll tell him now.
Did you?
I was like, I'll tell him now something was happening in the business, and I'm like, well, now's not a good time. I'll wait. And like something like he had his own fair share with like the shite he would get from his seniors and all that sort of stuff. And I remember going, I remember talking to Jones, like, I'm going to do it today, and she's like, "You done it?" And I was like, "Nah, not done it today. I'll do it tomorrow." This went on for a couple of weeks, and I was like, "I need to do this." Set up the phone, videoed it, and you can see in the video like that.
Is it a video call that you've done?
I've videoed myself, so
you've recorded yourself, but is it a phone call?
Yeah. So I'm on Skype to him.
For the listeners, I'm holding up my fucking thumb and my pinky because I'm old school.
It's like,
that's the old school phone.
How do the folks say you're going to phone someone? It's like they do that.
They hold it. They sound like they're holding a brick. And we do this. We do that.
It's funny. But I remember doing that and getting off that call, and it was like this whole pressure. And I was never nervous about making the leap. I was excited. I'd this build up from the age of 22, listening to these other guys to going, I'm about to do this now. So this is what I mean. This is a 5-year visualization. Okay, it wasn't exactly, didn't know the terms, didn't know what I was doing. It was just naturally happening.
Remember what I said to you? It's start. You don't need to have all the pieces. Just start. You're going to pick them up as you go. Don't get locked in.
Building blocks.
That's it. Just roll with it. Begin. Get the momentum. The answers will come to you.
Yeah, and I think
remember the expression, when the student's ears are open, teacher will appear.
It'll appear, and that's true for also like mentorships in a way. I never had a direct mentor, but I was looking up to these guys that I was listening to on that podcast.
And isn't that cool what we've got today? I mean, certainly when I started 2005, there wasn't podcasts, there wasn't YouTube videos like there is now. There isn't social media and clips and. I mean, there's been you'll remember it because there's a massive shift from videos online were just a place to post a video, and it was usually like a fail or something funny. There wasn't the things that are on there now, and there's just this massive wave of really great advice that you can apply that's really specific from loads of great different sources, and you just didn't have that when we started because it was a case of it was books. and I think maybe audible books, but it was like a recorded CD. It wasn't as detailed as they are now.
Yeah.
And the ability to access them wasn't as easy, and there's just a huge shift now.
I'm trying to even think why I chose to. So the whole podcasting side thing for me, I was like, another part of this not really spoke about, like not abused, but stupid with steroids at the age of like 20, 21. Before I moved to Nottingham, my friend had done it, and I was like, oh, he's got good success, I'll do it. I wouldn't be committed to it. I'd do it 1 week, forget the next week, catch up the week after. And I got really bad acne. And I got a lot of like really insecure about not how I looked, but showing these spots in my back, and I was so in my head with it. And I was looking for information, and I was watching YouTube videos, and you would see guys in the gym that had acne, and I was like, no, mine looks worse than that. And I was like, I'm not even taking stuff anymore. Like, what the hell's going on? And I think that's what led me to, let me open up Spotify and just type in, I can't remember the subject I typed in, but I typed in, that's how I found this fitness podcast. And it's the best thing I've ever done. I learned nothing about what I wanted to do in the first place, but it sent me on this path to figure out more. So as soon as I quit, I knew, like, I didn't know what the game plan exactly would be, but it was like, right, I could keep training people in my garage, but I'm going to get into that gym industry and understand how a gym works. And I know if I go in past experience, when I move from business to business, it's going to take me about a month or two, and I'll have everything down.
It's like, I mean, it's like these crazy twists and turns that life got. I remember how I came about starting the podcast, because I started the podcast, I didn't think that I had anything to talk about.
Yeah, then
I knew that I had to. I knew that I wanted to do this thing for my boys, and then a fairly famous guy that was involved in a project that I was investing in. I was like, why are you not doing this? Like, why are you not curating your videos? You've got all these documents, you've got all these peer-reviewed studies, you've got all these books. You've basically got this huge amount of information that you're not tapping into. You should do this. And he's like, well, what would it look like? And I put together some slides of what it would look like, some figures, some demographics.
Like he's held a mirror up. Like,
and I'm like, look. And it was frustrating because it ended up doing nothing with it. And I'm like, why? This is so obvious. Yeah. And then I thought, well, you know, the best thing, maybe it's because I haven't done it, that you would go, well, you know, if it's that easy, Jack, then fucking why are you not doing it? And I thought to myself, well, how hard could it be? And I thought, well, I'll just start. And I had no answers, didn't even know what the name was going to be, didn't know how, you know, no studio,
so
nothing.
Important, though, just to start.
So we're getting there. I was a guest on some other people's podcasts. I remember being on Ben's podcast probably a dozen times. Yeah. And like enjoying it, and people, like the feedback of people, like, what about this and what about that? And Ben would inevitably get me back on because he was getting questions about, can you ask Gio this, can you ask Gio that? And then that tied in with what Paul was saying about, you need to do this. Days, and I thought, well, like I don't know. And you know what it's when you start and you like, do you record, is it audio, you know, you fluff it and you like, what do you do? So you end up you just roll with it. And it's these weird ways. Now we fast forward, you know, 70 episodes in, we've got people going up mountains, we're at the lifting club. Look how it spawned into this amazing thing. And it just starts with, like you were saying, you went into Spotify, stressed out about your acne, you don't know where you're going, and then woof, it's taking you down a path. When the students' ears are open, the teacher shall appear. And
it's exactly what happened. So and then for there, it's only been a short 2-3 years. I think this is like.
What came first? I take it was gym. Studio.
I built like a garage gym, and I trained a couple of people from there. I knew I could scale that up and keep my overheads low, but I was like, let me just get into a gym, because footfall. And I always said to myself, I'm known as the guy that works in BT. I have this page, Coach Crossar, but I need to get my footprint in there as somebody who's really good at coaching. So I was like, let me find a gym. I knew there was a gym opening up in Wishaw, Gym 24. I just walked in, and I was expecting to walk in because I'm listening to this fitness podcast. I think everyone in fitness will also listen to this podcast. So I name dropped the podcast as if he's got that, right, cool, you're a good guy, I'll bring you in. And he went, never heard that. And I was like, and I just led with confidence. I was like, look, I'm really passionate about this. Here's what I've been doing. Do you have space for me to use your gym and work in your gym? He invited me in for an interview, and just over the years of interviewing in different parts of the corporate world, I think he was impressed with me because I dressed up and all that sort of stuff, and in the gym space, it's normally you come in your trackies and your t-shirt, and he was like, why are you dressing up? It's like, well, make a good impression. So I think he liked all those qualities, and I was cleaning the gym and doing all these things, and he went to pay me, and I remember going, I don't want paid for it. I was like, I'm just doing this part, because as much as there's a model where you clean the gym and do the classes, I'm just here to PT. I what a PT is like. I'm cleaning and I'm learning about the opening and all these different things. But the main thing for me is all my time needs to be dedicated towards how I'm getting clients and showing my face as the new kind of coach on the block. And that's that. Weirdly enough, if you kind of look at my journey as a coach and a personal trainer, I go in November. December is probably one of the quietest months of like personal training, because everybody's saving for Christmas. Last thing they want to do is spend a bit of luxury on their personal trainer. So I'm in there, I'm starting to get my reputation up, and then I was like, how do I be known as a really good PT? And I remember someone saying, you're a billboard every time you're on that gym floor. So I would be cleaning up and I'd be asking people, nice to see you, it's good to see you working out. It's like, what are you training today? Creating conversations every day. Was it without a doubt, even if I didn't have clients, I was spending a good 7 to 10 hours on there. And then I was like, I'm going to run a competition. I'm going to train someone for free for a whole year. So I ran this on Instagram, 100 people entered into it. Picked someone, and I thought, I've got 100 odd people who are interested in personal training. Let me just message them all and give them 4 weeks of free training. So I'm not doing anything in January anyway. I've only training a handful of people. So I went from 4 sessions a day to 12. And by the end of January, maybe about 80% of them re-signed into paying clients. February, March, April, May, I was full. I was doing those 6-7 days a week training. 50 to 65 sessions. I've still got all my wee diaries filled out, and I was just hustling. I was just I remember people saying, you're going to burn yourself out, and I'd have so much energy.
You can't see when you're on the path.
Endless energy.
When you're on the path, you cannot be stopped. You can,
so much.
like, you know, it's like wee George. It's like wee George when he trains. Like, people go, you're overtraining. You can't overtrain when you're on that wave. Nothing can stop you. It's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing. You're like, I know that I've hit where I should be, and you just caught up in the whirlwind where it was whoosh.
And so this whole time, like, I'm not goal setted. I've not done any sort of visualization. It was like the goals or the visualization is to get my reputation out there. And I remember,
because you're dealing with the parts at this point. You've not got a huge vision. You're just going, I know I need a part. Let me work on the part. You don't have you don't have the whole machine yet, but you're like, right, if I fix this part, I'll get clarity. But I know I need to do this. And then it'll materialise. So, like, it's funny that you're seeing it all. You're seeing it come together. You can follow the path. You can follow the breadcrumb trail.
So that was right up till we got married, and then I went away. Took my first kind of 2-week break. We went on our honeymoon, and I'm trading time for money at this point. And this is the first time, like, it's like shit. I've got all these sessions I need to catch up with. If I'm doing 65 sessions in a week, they can't be squeezed into other weeks. And I realised, I was like, okay, I just don't take money for those 2 weeks. And I was like, this isn't a good business model. And I was like, right, how do I treat this properly, like a business, rather than just a sole trader trading time for money? And I listened to, also right into my self-development. I'm like, listen to an audiobook, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Listen to that. I'm like, okay, property might be an interesting thing to get into.
Well, this is a fucking this is a well-trodden path, this.
Yeah, but I'm listening to it and I'm like,
what year is this?
2021.
Right.
Yeah, it's only a couple of years ago. I'm like, okay. And I listen to that whole audiobook and I don't go, I'm going to be a property entrepreneur. I listened to it, and the one thing I took away was, I remember him saying, the best thing you can ever do is go to events. Doesn't matter if it's a doctor's events, property events, construction events. Going to these events is a great way to network, and it allows you to see different walks of life, because he's always taking something away. And I was like, interesting. I've never been to like an event outside the corporate world. I was like, what events would I go to? Anyway, it's like your phone can read your mind sometimes. Next thing pops up, Property Jumpstart, Glasgow, Richard Dixon's talking away at the camera. And I'm like, it's a kind of young guy, like about my age, talking about property. Property is something I thought I would do. In my head, I'm like, it'd be good to get an Airbnb. That was always something that, I don't even know where that came from me and Jill's perspective. It's like, that'll be a goal we save up for it at one point. And I was like, I'll go to this event and learn about it. It's only 50 quid. You get your lunch both days. And cool, sounds good. And went to that world, and then you're sold the dream of property's easy. Easy peasy. It's not easy. It's like you can do a lot in property. And I was like, fuck, I didn't realise how good this can be. So I'm like, okay, there's an upsell here, and it's about $4,000 or whatever it was at the time. It was a big chunk of money, and the most I've spent in terms of money at this point has been my house deposit, my honeymoon, my wedding. Even my PT course was only about £1,500, but it was still a big investment. But this was like the next big investment, and I'm like, I was like, I'll go for it. I'm committed to it. There are like 6 spaces remaining. I'm like, okay, this is going to run out. There's also a high demand for this. Same usual fucking marketing techniques. Yeah. And you go through this 5 days, and you learn about all these strategies, and they all sound really good. But as this is happening, one of my clients that I'm training says that she's like, my husband's looking at opening our space and all that sort of stuff. He's quite interested to sit down with you. And I was like, sit down with me? I was like, what do you mean? So as I'm going through this training, this doesn't happen. I remember her mentioning this. And
so you're still at Gym 24 doing your PT, and you've came back for your honeymoon. You've heard this.
I've heard this.
You've read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
So May, June I'm away, come back middle of June, start picking up my books, training people. See this about July time, go to the Jumpstart event, end of July. The property course kicks off in August, and just before August my client says this to me, and I'm like, right, cool. So I take a week off work and I go to this event. I say a week off work, I take the 5 days off, I come in and train.
This is the 4K event?
Yeah, so I'm at the event, I'm learning about all this, and towards the end of it you write a letter to yourself, and this is probably the first time that it's like somebody said, think about your goals, think about what you want to achieve and where you want to be in a year's time. And I'm like, I remember a bit of this in the corporate space, but I was like, never actually done this for myself. So I'm like, what do I want to do? And it's like, you mentioned you'd start a podcast. So I wrote, I want to have X amount, I can't remember the episodes, whatever 2 episodes per, no, it wasn't even 2 episodes. I said, I want to have an established podcast in the fitness space and be consistently uploading. So I wrote that down. I wrote, have 100,000 in property. I wrote that usual shite that you do. Or have 10 properties, or have my first property deal going through. When I started writing more and more stuff about coaching, I was like, X amount of clients, X amount. I didn't even write X amount of financially. It was always about X amount of people impacted and changed people's lives, how many people I'd coached, etc., etc. And that goes away. You're highly motivated when you come off the back of that. Met Brian. Brian, didn't realise Brian had lived here, and we end up looking at the same deal on Rightmove. So I come out of this property event, and I was like, right, I'm going to say to Jill, I was like, this is really easy. We start finding places, found a place, got a viewing, went round, done the numbers, started doing all that. I was like, I think this is a really good deal. We're in this group chat, and I post some questions about it in this group chat, and then Brian then posts as well. I was like, I was looking at that as well. So we decide, why don't we just come together and see if we can sort this out between us. And as I'm doing all this, I then sit down with Scott, and he says, look, I'm taking over a building in Airdrie. There's a massive space next door. Do you want to run a gym from there? I'm like, is that where I want to be? And I start in my head, I'm going back and forth, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I truly chasing property? And the question, like, when you're doing this goal setting thing, it's like, if money wasn't an issue, where would you be? And it's no buying houses or buying property, it's coaching people. And that's what I realised. And I'm at the end of this course, and I'm like, have I just wasted my money? And I always think about that, and I was like, I'm not wasting my money, because that to me might be an expensive lesson, but is the best lesson I could have got at that point, because it allowed me to dive deeper in, and it allowed me to go balls to the walls on this. Because I was even questioning when I got off this, I was like, I could save my money and I could put it into property. I was like, no, let me spend everything I've got and make this work. And that's really where I got to it. So that was at the end of that course, and you're in the group for a year, and you think you're going to do something with it. And I was wasting a lot of time. I'm like, rather than try to get money together,
else's dream.
I'm like,
you're not on your path yet. This isn't in your path yet.
you know the only way I can describe it is, you know, when I don't know if you've ever done this, but when you're caught up in the corporate world and everything, they always run, we're all going to buy a bunch of lottery tickets as a site, and they do the, what do you call them? Syndicates, right? So they used to do that in Nottingham a lot, and I'd never be someone that bets or puts lottery on. But the time that you do, you go, imagine I win that. And you get the butterflies in your stomach, you're like, I could buy this, could buy that. That's what the property course made me feel like when I was going through it, because it seemed so easy to do, and it seemed like I had cracked the code to what folk never knew. Yeah. And when you look back at it, it's got its value and its information and that, but in reality, it's not how it works. I went and I tried to do one deal, and the time I was putting into that, and I was doing all this, and I was like, I'm not checking in with my clients, it's taking my time away from what I was wanting to do. And then I was just like, draw a line in the sand. I was like, just said to Brian, if you want to go ahead with it, go for it. I was like, he's like, I'll keep you in the deal and all that sort of stuff. I was like, no point, because I'm literally not doing anything with this. So that was my experience with the whole property side of things. And just, again, like, my ears might have been open, or I was maybe looking for something that allowed me to change, I don't know what you'd call it, like sole trader.
The thing that you've got is clarity, because what's happened here is that you're looking for an answer. And an answer can come to you as in, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. But an answer can come in a confirmation, and it can be that you've looked at something else and you've confirmed that you now know what you don't want to do, which then gives you clarity on exactly what you want to do. And so, albeit that you've went through that experience, what happens is you've went down the route that's a well-trodden path where you go, look, this is a great way of doing something. But what it's made you realise is exactly what it is that you want to do, because you could have went down that route and you could have pursued that, but what you've realised is that it wasn't your route, it wasn't your path.
Yeah.
And that's given you clarity that you now know exactly what you should focus on, because you know you're not going to waste time doing the thing that isn't going to be right for you.
Yeah, so that whole
and if you get people and you says, look, I'm going to charge you $4,000 in 5 days and you're going to have clarity, would you take the deal? You'd be like, a lot of people who are really truly lost would be like, I'd fucking take that deal.
Yeah, if it puts you on the
5 days and $4,000, I'll take that. I'll take that deal.
I don't know if you would take it just knowing what clarity looks like, but I think if someone said, like, you would get that back tenfold, maybe not in, well, even in the financial terms as well, you'd be like, it's a no-brainer. So I knew I wanted to start a podcast at that point going into that course. That was just another part of, like, evergreen content. I was like, people who can't afford coaching, am I just going to let them go to another personal trainers? Like, let me make my free stuff better than people's paid stuff. That was like a catchy phrase that everyone was saying at one point, and I was like, I like that idea. And I was like, how could I do that? Like, yeah, I could run a free class, I could do free training. And I was like, but I can also do like something that somebody tunes into. So if anybody wants to listen, that's why I started creating content, and the podcast was a thing that I wanted to do.
How long did it take you to get good at doing content?
I don't think I'm still don't feel I'm good at it. I guess it's just never.
Have you improved?
It's definitely been improved. I think I'm approaching 1,000 posts on Instagram. I've got 230 episodes on the podcast side of things. Them are two different things. I remember recording my first video. It took me like 40 attempts just to say, hi, I've quit my job, I'm going to be personal training, really excited. Obviously, if you're looking for a personal trainer and you've want to give us a shot, then let us know, but I'm excited to post more content. That's all I wanted to say. And I kept going, Jesus Christ, and I was like, why is this so hard to do? I'm just talking to a camera. Thousands of videos getting in front of that.
I think it'd be good to do like a podcast event, like, you know, getting a group of people in Scotland and going, look, do you want to meet up here? You buy a ticket, come along. We're going to
a live event,
like a live event, just to get people in that environment. I think it'd be good to run.
One of my clients who's in after this, Jack, he does live events. He does them in kind of halls, and he brings business owners on and dives into their story live, and it's quite a cool concept. What they do.
I don't mean doing a podcast live. I mean like getting a bunch of podcasters, like new, experienced, and all, and be like, right, how do you book your guests on? How do you do how do you do all this stuff? Like, have you fucked up?
Just a networking thing, isn't it?
But I mean, I think even from the point of view, you've got a studio, maybe people want a studio. Even just sharing, like, have you got good guests? Like, who would be a good fit for mine? Who'd be a good fit for yours? I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be a good thing to run.
So that's how you find your guests just now, is like you talk to people in your circle and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll reach out to them. Or you see you see online. So I'd started the podcast, and then I think it was a couple of weeks after we had started, I get offered like this place was on the radar, scoped it out, and I don't know where my business mindset comes from, if you would even call it that, but I'm always thinking about the kind of long-term gain and all that sort of stuff, and I always envisioned like having a studio, just because the guys that I was listening to had their own studio, not a podcast studio, like a gym studio. So that was like somebody had like went, here's your dream, like you could have it now. It's like, am I ready for it now? And all these questions going through your head, and it's like, but what about the property stuff? What about the financial freedom stuff? The buzzword that, again, all these terms that I never really heard of until I went to this course, and a lot of stuff to dive into your mindset.
It's really the first time that you've done a deep dive on your mindset for you, because it was always about for the business,
for everybody else.
Fucking word. You know, you need to do it for like the business is some fucking human organism.
It's that big,
some living being that you need to nurture, and you know, we need to do it for the business, because if you don't, it'll die.
I remember hearing things like some of my old team, I don't know whether they said this to me, they buttered me up or that, but they were like guys that'd been in the business 20, 30 years, really good at their job, and they're like, you're honestly one of the best managers we've ever had. And I'm like, you're just saying that. It's like, no, honestly, like it's going to be interesting to see how this site ends up with you leaving, and then you feel good, but a couple of months after, you're like, just a number. You're just a number that moved. Doesn't matter how.
That's the thing that annoys people is they are treated as a number, and it's usually they've gave up a significant time in their life before they realise that they're a number. Yeah, it's a
hard game, because it's like you want people playing the part, but then you need to like it's also can be. I came across a lot of guys who gave that business 20, 30 years, and they had 4 days that they worked within the week, and they'd done a good job in the set hours that they wanted to play. And I remember always being on an agenda that we were trying, our seniors were like trying to push on to people, like, you need to be committed to this business. And I got that, but I would always say to my teams, like, look, all I ask you is the hours that you work here, you try your best. I was like, I don't need to go above and beyond what you do, but as long as you're doing that, then I'm happy. If you want to go above and beyond, you want to seek more career opportunities through this.
This is a problem with communism. Communism is that whole issue that's similar in the corporate space, corporate politics, favoritism, getting an edge. The communist structure was always, you're not rewarded equally or proportionately for working harder, so talent is quashed.
Yeah,
in that environment where you have this, if your face fits or you know who you know, like out and out, you know, capitalism is the cream rises to the top. If you're better, you get better results, and you know there's a lot of sort of connotations that are attached to them, but their purest form, the best should be rewarded and have better results than the ones that don't push as hard. But everyone should be allowed a fair crack. You should have fair opportunity. So if you can get a shot at it, then great. And people that aren't doing a great job shouldn't be rewarded because they've fucking played the game of politics. Think there's a code to crack on, you know, if I say this or I do that. That's nepotism, where you're just pushed by who you know or who you are, and you've not really earned it. And it should be a meritocracy. So you should be pushed on your merit, not on anything else. And that's the hard bit with corporate world is that it's not always that. There's snide deals, and there's relationships, and there's people that are favouritized.
You've seen it all the time. It's like they got promoted or they got into that role. It's like, the fuck did they get that? It's how they know.
And there's nothing fucking worse than having someone above you that knows nothing about the job and is trying to tell you how to do the job. If there is a way to send someone home in a fucking fuming cloud of rage, it's someone that is above them, paid more than them, that's trying to tell them how to do something that they've not got a clue how to do because of a position.
All of these lessons, like, it's funny, you look back at all that and you're like, was there any value in that? But there's a part.
Like
you
get
to learn about
experience.
All that. And then this is fostered here. We're just coming up 2 years at this place, and it's chopped and changed a couple of times. And even from a business relationship point of view, I remember going with the podcast, like, do I start it with someone or do I do it my own? And I held off doing it my own, just that I was like, who's going to listen to me? And it's the whole, I've not really got much to say. What have I got to say? But I went to make the decision to do that and started that with someone else. It went really well for a period of time, but then it's now kind of went back to my own, and it's like, cool. That, again, there's lessons that come with that, and I think it's still still in the learning phase for sure, but it's something I love doing. I need to remind myself a lot, like, it's like, fuck man, I'm living that sort of dream. But the trap that I fell in, I spoke to you a good few times about, it's like, you got so back to your visualization and what you opened up with, you visualize it, and it's almost like Scott, like what we were talking about with his professional boxing. You get the professional boxing title, and then it's like, right, what's next? So it's a bit similar in that sense, that you achieve what you set out to do.
The thing that guys like Scott struggle with is they're in something that's there permanently. They know the objective, they know the goal, they know what their identity is, and they put so much intense hours and commitment to getting there, and over a long period of time. And we mentioned 11 years for Scott. Well, 11 years is locked in. But as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you're constantly reinventing yourself. You're constantly adapting and adjusting. But when you've been locked into something for 11 years, you're hardened. So your plasticity to reinvent yourself is not easy, because it's so solid, because you've put that much effort into them.
It's even more effort.
And it's like a steak that's fucking frozen, and you're trying to get blood back into it to reshape it, and you go, oh, I need to thaw this thing out. And it can be difficult, it can be hard, but look, if you give it enough time, it will thaw out and you can start to reshape yourself. But as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you know, and even from my experience, you know, as an investor, the landscape constantly changes. So the formula never stays the same. It's always getting tweaked, always getting adjusted, and always adapting. I think that's a big thing that people struggle with, is that you constantly, it's like you can never rest. But that's part of why it's exciting, because it's always new and always adapting. And that's why we say the expression, you're either winning or you're learning, because if something happens, it's not necessarily negative. It's that you have got information on what you need to change. And that's what you're experiencing now, because people come and go, things change, things chop and change. And look at what it's morphed into now. You've got your coaching business, you've got your gym, you've got the podcast, you've got the studio, you've got media, you're doing content, you've got your wife now on board with you, big hit with the lifting club, which is a new sort of addition, which has just spawned a complete.
It's like and that's quite good to do, because that's never something. It's something you could charge for. It's something I could definitely monetize it. I'm at the drawing board with that just now. Relaunching it again, going to kind of pick them back up. Just been away the past few weekends, but it's like, how does that become better? It's always like, how can this grow into something else? And that's where I'm like, what do I do here? And even in the money side of things, I think that still holds over me. So it's like, I need to make money to have the business to go, and this part of me still goes, I get drawn back into, like, I need to get maybe a couple of properties to have more stability in terms of income. And it's like, do I just put my energy and focus into that, or do I grow the coaching business that's maybe a longer path, but it gives me the same fulfillment, or gives me more fulfillment? Do I do both? And that's the part of like trying to get clearer on where that vision or where that time needs to get pushed. I
think now you know the answer to that question.
Aye.
But you've not done it the deep dive yet, which is you need to go into the big thing that you need is clarity, so that you know. When you were in the corporate world, it was 2-dimensional, it was linear.
Yeah, very straightforward.
So you looked and you looked down and you go, well, I know that I'm just going up the steps. So it was like going up a staircase. You know the step that you're up, and you just keep going up. You've not got any of this. Where now, when you're in this world, you've got many different sort of strands that are going off. And the thing that you want to do is you want to know how best to play these strands. You not want to know the ones that you should do later on. You want to know the ones that are priority. But there's multiple strands happening at once. And that is the thing that you need the clarity, you need the vision for, because it filters out, it creates the priority, and it filters out the ones that you don't need to do. So like the ideal scenario is financial stability. Financial stability allows you freedom. Freedom allows you choice. Choice allows you to decide which priority your strands are in without the pressure of finances, because what you're alluding to is, I know which strands I would like to be in place, but it's difficult to have those strands in place without the finances. So I'm at the horse and cart. What comes first? Well, I need the finances to be able to do them, but to do them, you need to do them without necessarily making money initially. So it's that sort of what the chicken and egg scenario. So what you want to do is get yourself a situation where, how do I get the finances and how do I operate the strands in the closest way that I can get them the way that I would like if I didn't have the financial element. But if I do have the financial element, which way do I shape them in terms of which order so that I can get to my destination, which is all things being equal, I would want this, this and this operational because I would have it in that way. That's the way to get it. But to do it, you need to go through that exercise, which is most people.
It's not just trial and error though, to an extent, isn't it? Like maybe not necessarily error, but it's like you get to those crossroads and you're like, what decision's the best decision to make? You got your framework. The framework's sort of the same. It might tweak, but you make the decision. You just start.
Well, this is the thing that I'm noticing on the 6 a.m. calls, because in as little as 3 days, here's what's happened. We've got people that are like, we've got guys that are coming on and they're going, Gio, this happened to me yesterday, and it's almost mystical that these things are popping up. I thought about this in the morning, someone phoned me and says this, or they're doing things like, I'm making sure things are done because I know that I'm coming here in the morning. And it's like they've got the check-in, they're checking, they're clocking in, and they're going, well, I know what I need to do. Another thing that's happening is they're going, I'm not putting this off because I know that this is in my vision. And it's taking it from the big to the smaller to what you got to do today.
Yeah.
Think about where you're going, what needs to happen today, and it just blows away all the distractions. And you're seeing it in 3 days.
That's crazy.
In 3 days you're seeing it. It's wild, and it's just doing this thing in the right order. I've said this time and time again, life gets in the way. I've seen myself do it where I've went through the process of visualising, being really hardcore on it, being really structured, and then I never got to yes, they let me do it today, and inevitably you fall away, and then you realise that you're like, I'm not operating optimally, and then you go back to it, and then it's like, right, we need to institute this as not a should, but a must. Because should never gets done, must becomes like there's no decision on it. It must be done. And when I said to the guys on Sunday night, as I said, we put this in plan for a couple of months ago, and I never done it. And then Sunday night, it's like, right, geez, what to do it? We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it for a week. We'll give it a trial. And in 3 days, like the third one was this morning, and Dale, there's nobody going, oh, I can't be bothered doing this. Guys are ready. They are like
excited.
Yes,
because it's all driven to what they want to do, as opposed to.
But do you know what you're getting? You're getting group accountability. Everybody's holding each other to account in a positive way. No, the dirty accountability. We're like, what's up? How you doing? Like that. You know, you were talking on the gym floor. How you doing? What you training today?
Genuine curiosity. Yeah.
But you want to see people doing well. You're getting group problem solving. Mikey's solving a problem for Christian. Christian's suggesting something to Danny. Danny's suggesting something to Joel. I'm like, right, look, and I'm overseeing it and going, I can see what's going on here.
Accountability.
And you're seeing the connection where you're going, I know somebody that you can talk to. Have you tried this? I know who you can do it. So you're getting networking, accountability, group problem solving, but most of all, you're getting high energy first thing in the morning. So see, before social media distracts you, because what do everybody do? They get up, WhatsApp, social media, Instagram.
So draining that as well. I don't think people realise, like, when you're caught in that trap, it's hard to break the cycle, but see, when you break it, man, like, get outside, do walk and talk or whatever it is. Like,
well, like, for instance, see, when, like, what I was saying to the guys in the calls, like, look, social media and things like that's a great tool, but like anything, if you use too much or use it the wrong way, it can be detrimental. So what you want to do is get something where you're using it effectively. Now, go on social media, but the reason data is a big thing now is that they want your attention, and you need to watch the call, because I explain how mind control and data are almost a mirror image of each other. So if I want to get you to do something, I can get you to do something by planting seeds and getting your attention and taking you along a path. Social media is doing the same.
Like mind readers for the magician shows, and you'd look at it, it's not what they do in the show, it's like they got somebody earlier in the day to like whisper a code or say a number in their mind. It's like, I know what number you're thinking of.
Well, see, the same process, because I explain the process of what they do. The process is, in very, very short, is let me put you into a state that I can suggest things to your subconscious mind. Let me get you to completely focus on one thing, which is, my voice or your breathing or whatever it may be, and then let me walk you along a path till you get an outcome. Now, that might be a fear of flying. It might be that you don't like fucking claustrophobia. It might be, I want you to do something like eat an onion on stage and think it's an apple. Well, algorithm reads your pattern, right? It understands your pattern of behavior. It then gets you to focus on one thing, your screen, and then it shows you more things to lead you on a path to get you to get a result. Welcome to gaslighting.
Aye,
right? And that's what you've got. And the same mentalist hypnotist trick, or it's not a trick, it's just a formula to influence someone. And social media as a tool is doing that, right? So let's intercept it. We know the power of visualization. We know how to do it properly in the mindset group. I explain the right way to do it. I explain the wrong way to do it, and explain how to know if you're doing it right or how you're doing it wrong. Then we wake up in the morning, don't look at social media before, go on it afterwards, but here's what to do. We're going to prime you for your day before social media guides you down its fucking, long-winded walk down fucking algorithmic path. Let's take it and let's put it to you.
I notice it a lot when I've sat down and even if I play a podcast or an audiobook first thing in the morning, as opposed to opening up my Instagram, replying to DMs, and then you reply to DMs, you post your reel. First thing you do is like you swipe your reel and then you're on the actual algorithm, and then you find yourself like, I'm done in, man. I'm actually energy.
It's clawed you. It's got you in.
It's got you in. Noticed that the past couple of months, couple of weeks, where I've done that.
So there you go. That's the art of visualization and the power of doing it right, and the group accountability. And you see that with your group coaching. You'll see
it's always the same. You need to. It's almost like, so there's tons of like different stories of who sees success, who doesn't see as much success. But like you said, you reverse engineer it and you bring it back to the basics. It's the same thing. It's the same whether it's the breadcrumbs or somebody's very clear on, look, here's what I want, but it has to be tied to that deeper purpose, not the surface level stuff. And that's the thing I used to always say in my early coaching sessions with people. It's like, what is it you want? And it's like, I want to be this way or look in this way. And it's like, right, cool. Let's say you achieve that. I was like, what's next? And it's like, I don't have the answer for you. Very similar when you ask about the dreams and the goals and all that sort of stuff. It's like no one's went to that deeper level. And that's usually why someone's on or off, especially with their fitness goals, because to lose a couple of pounds or lose a few kilos, get in shape, the process in itself is pretty simple. It's a short part of your fitness journey, but to maintain it, it's a lifelong thing that you need to create the habits for. And
it's a lifestyle. You need to make it a part of you.
Change a lot. You need to change a lot.
Identity. You want to make it a success.
And that's where you go that deeper level. It's like, right, forget the surface level stuff. It's like, why do you want to look a certain way? Is it for attraction to the other sex? Is it because it helps you with your confidence? Is it maybe because you think when you look a certain way, you feel a certain way? What is that feeling going to be? And you get right down into the roots and you get a higher buy-in from their commitment. So because on paper, they've got a stronger commitment as opposed to, I'll just look a certain way. Because the looking side of things, like that's so maybe where my approach is a little bit more different to your standard PT that's going after transformations and all that sort of stuff. Transformation's great, but it's not the coaching that I like doing with people. I like getting to like a real world buy-in of what they're doing 6 months from now, 6 years from now. Are they still committed to lifting weights? And that's where I'm like, okay, I've done my job then. It's no a 12-week transformation might be cool, but what are you doing when you step away from my coaching? That's my impact.
So what's next for you?
I probably need to get back into that world a wee bit more, create more of a, just do it more at a larger scale, if I'm being honest.
Do what more?
The helping more people get into lifting weights. I think I'm still torn like with the whole like client avatar and all that sort of stuff. I love the older population side of things. I love like any client I've got over the age of like 50 or 60, and when they get into the gym, then they're almost like their generation growing up. They missed the whole social media wave. Their idea of lifting weights was Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the bodybuilders. So they never truly got to get the communication through to them that, here, lifting weights and resistance training is generally the fountain of youth. It reverses your osteoporosis. It gives you more strength. It gives you more confidence. It increases your quality of life. To me, that I want to help those guys and get guys and girls get into that sort of thing. But then on the flip side of things, there's definitely something to be said with the younger generation growing up just now. They're not moving as much. Their grip strength, I think a 60-year-old man in the 1960s has a stronger grip strength reading than your average 70-year-old boy now, and that's quite worrying, because it's not, I don't think, obesity is one thing I thought, like, okay, like we need to reduce the amount of overweight and obese people we have, but
you'd think there would have been the other way around with the invention of internet and adult entertainment. 17-year-old,
the right hand might be stronger than the left, or left hand.
You need to check them both,
right.
But you've got some 60-year-old that's like been farming and stuff like that, and he can crush just about everything with the grip strength, just that sinewy, mature muscle power. It's
the lack of strength and muscle that guys and girls have, and the perception of muscle is bodybuilders. And that's great. That's one little wee tiny percent of this circle of life, and everything when it comes to resistance training, it's the only way to do it is having some form of resistance. You can't get it with running, biking, any sort of endurance. You'll get efficient at endurance, but your joints will get weaker. You'll lose muscle if there's.
That's the
no
thing
resistance.
with cyclists is they not, like when they crash, they break bones because their bone mass is so light,
so frail and fragile,
so light.
And it's like, right, cool. You found something.
Low.
You found something you love, but there's a big movement with, oh, but they're fit. Look how fit this person is, and they die early or they break their bone early. And it's like, no, how are you defining fitness? I think that's something I want to kind of change at a larger scale. I want to get through to more people.
Why do you want to do that?
Because every single person can benefit from it. It's that simple. It's no...
What's obvious to you that isn't obvious to them that they'll benefit from?
A stronger life, a stronger quality of life. And I don't mean strong in the sense of...
Like, for instance, like what would be stronger in the life that they would get better quality from?
So you could take this in a number of different directions, but...
Well, just give me one for your 50, 60-year-old. Like, give me a classic example.
Your family, like your kids and your grandkids, being able to actually have the energy to play with them, the confidence to be able to get in the soft play with them. Like, you look around, it's so sad. Like, so many people don't experience... Like, take everything out, take money out, the nice cars, the materialistic things. What do we all... there's a great video done where I can't remember the guy's name, but he's speaking on stage and he says he's been at the deathbed of about thousands of different people, and he's like, you know what everybody wants in their final, their last... He's heard 1,000 different people take their last breath. Do you know what they ask for when the people around us? Like the people that they love, because we're social human beings. We want to connect with our friends, our family, and all that sort of stuff. And having strength and a good quality of life and a good bit of resistance in your life gives you that freedom. You have might have 99 problems, but when you've got a health problem,
compassionate in one.
Compassionate in one. But when you've got a health problem, that becomes the priority in your life. And people wait till it's too late, and I think that's quite sad. And I think we're going to see more and more health issues. We're going to see more and more, not even the issues from the sense of from an obesity kind of thing. I think we're actually more under-muscled. It's not like, I don't know if
what do you think of the... I mean, we'll just throw this in before we get wrapped up. We don't want you to miss your session here. But you're in the fitness space and you want people to get healthier. And there's never been more of a time where it's obvious that it's a big part of this is the food industry. I mean,
if it is obvious, so I genuinely don't.
Well, I mean, there's never been a time where, like, say, for instance, in America, you've got Bobby Kennedy Jr. who's saying, look, we are, like, the food industry is literally poisoning people. And you can go to the gym as much as you want, you do as much cardio as you want, but we need to get the nutrients. Like, so the soils that these foods are coming from,
a massive part of
the
it.
seeds that are generating the yields, the lack of density of nutrients that are in the foods, ultra high processed sugars and wheats and things like that, all the pesticides and Monsanto, all the carcinogens that are in there, and you go, look, you need to do them both. Like, one doesn't go without the other. You need to get that nutrition dialed in, as well as, like, your body's made to move.
Aye, but
And you see how many people you had where you get them moving and they're like,
it's like the first walk of the day. It's like the whole prime in the mindset. It's like it's just untapped, like energy.
I know. When I was saying this to the missus, like I know how crap I feel. Like, see if I train 5 days a week in the gym and 4 days a week in the bike, and there's sometimes that I can't get training on the bike till later on in the afternoon, and my mood is so low.
Aye.
Like, I can tell.
It's
I'm
a
like,
cheat code.
I need to get training. I need to get moving.
It's a cheat code to everything, but there's only one that. So the industry, if you look at like different industries and categories of who's really going to solve this whole health epidemic, obesity epidemic, under muscled epidemic, whatever you want to call it, classify it as. I'm a big believer that it's the industry I'm in, the industry that I've chosen. Are
you sure that it's no GLP-1 inhibitors and Doritos? Because you can, apparently if you eat them, you can get skinny and you don't need to do any training.
So back to everything that there's a big misconception of like what it is. It's no diets. It's no, yes, food plays its part and all this sort of stuff. We don't have a problem losing weight. Like that's not the issue. People lose weight every single day, every single year. It's keeping the weight off. And as we go through, so you take, that's why I've been really going hard in these posts over the last couple of weeks, that it's not the diet, it's your diet. You've proven you can be disciplined for 8 weeks and follow a diet, but why have you gained the weight back? Because the principles and the habits have not been built. Let's take this to a deeper level. You lose weight, but you've ended up a higher body fat percentage. So how can I get fatter but I'm getting lighter on the scale? It's not the weight in the scale, it's not the diet itself. It's like you're losing strength, you're losing muscle, and that is in return going to make you an unhealthier and frailer human being. And the only way to fight against that or build a stronger body is a form of resistance training. And it could be the bodybuilding splits, it can be the push-pull legs, the full body. It doesn't matter, but it needs to be resistance training in the right way. And that's why I'm a big believer that it needs to start with that. And if you look at the industries, like it's the medical industry is not going to, they don't care. The food market industry doesn't care. Even to an extent, like your doctors and nurses and that, they're fighting a losing battle. There's too much demand.
They're blind to it.
There's too much demand coming in that they can physically. So it's a matter of, it's a quick turnover. And yes, they get to treat the issue, but it's not the root cause. And the root cause, it's not going to solve everything, but it's going to make the biggest dent if every single person could lift weights at least once or twice a week for 30, 40 minutes, focus on more compound lifts and free weights, moving every movement partner as opposed to your press, your pull, your squat, any sort of movement partner that you do, that would solve a lot of our issues.
Well, I think it's a testament to my wife who said that she was never, ever someone that would end up in the gym, and I never ever pushed it.
So
she came to the lifting club, the parents, I came to the lifting club with George, the parents and kids. Well, initially it was a lifting club.
What was that?
And then and the parents, she's obviously like, I'll come along. Ted wanted to come along, so she came along, and then she really enjoyed lifting the weights, and now she's in training in the gym.
Aye.
And she was like, I'd have never thought I would have ever seen myself in the gym, and now is completely hooked because you reap
the rewards so quickly.
And she's exhausted. She's like, I cannot believe how sore I am in parts of my body that I never knew I had.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am exhausted. And I'm like, well, but a good exhausted, like she feels really good, like really energized.
It's like rewarded in a sense. Yeah. And that's where it's not about, and this is why it's not really about weight. It's not about the kind of look in front of the mirror. It's like, let's just focus on this one wee tiny element and watch what starts to spiral. You talk about the upward spiral and the downward spiral and all that. For me, that first step is getting people confident in lifting weights. And then from there, we go to deeper levels, what's the right foods to have and all that sort of stuff. But you got your main pillars. But then if you go back to like why my kind of thoughts on like Robert Kennedy and everything to do with the nutrition and that, but people will hear that now. They're not going to listen because what was happening in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we went from fat's bad for you, carbs are bad for you, protein's bad for you, vegetables are bad for you. Like, there's so much contradicting information.
And also the thing being is that they sub categories of food have changed.
That many times, yeah.
Carbohydrate in the 60s is not the same as a carbohydrate today due to its ultra processed nature.
Look up the picture
GMO
of apples, seeds. Right? But apples in the 1950s were like that size. We're genetically modifying fucking everything to be bigger, and it's a great thing to have. It comes with its consequences.
It does, because it's not yielding the same nutrition, and then the people selling the GMO seeds, they don't regerminate. So you need to buy more seeds off them. So they now have the monopoly on the food supply.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things that you just, it's not obvious. And then the food pyramid was a complete sham. Like the scientists were paid to make it look.
Oh, it's changed that many times though as well. And look, we're at a stage where if you look at it, it ain't so bad now. Still not great, but it's a decent reference point. But people don't care anymore. Like technology, the ease of ordering takeaways, like all that sort of stuff, all the devices that keeps us sat down behind the screen. They're all things we're fighting against. And the film WALL-E, if you've ever watched that, like we're edging towards that more and more. But yeah, like if I've kind of had conversation with even my peers growing up, and I'm a part to play in this because I got into bodybuilding. I got into, that's what I loved. That's what George loves. And a consequence of us doing that is the people around us then think, oh, no, I'm not really interested. The gym's no for me. And it's like, oh, fuck. I've missed a trick there because my parents don't lift. My family, to a majority extent, see me as the young 20-year-old making my eggs and being disciplined with all that sort of stuff. And straight away they're against, that shit's not for me. That's for the bodybuilders. And that's the message I'm trying to fight against. It's not that anything's wrong with it. Yeah, like I said, it's one little modality within it. So is High Rock, so is CrossFit, so is every other sport within it. But regardless of what you want to do to chase after your dreams in life, anything that you want to do, whether it's your goals are around family, financial freedom, property, whatever business it may be, it's a better world with resistance training in it, and that's what I want to get out there. Because I don't think anyone's pushing that message as much. I don't believe there is anyone out there fighting that message. When you kind of look at why Joe Wicks got so popular, and he created something for when lockdown happened. He already had a bit of a following before that, but it was all around diet again. Lose calories, lose weight, Weight Watchers, Slimming World. It's all focused on losing weight, getting smaller, getting weaker, and getting frailer. And I don't think people realise that.
Strength is it.
Strength
is as good a place as any to finish up. It's been long overdue. It's been great to have you on.
Good.
Over your,
it's just cancelled anyway.
Is it?
I was looking at it, I was like, see, bastard cancelled? He's just cancelled. But I know strength is a key factor. And even in the strength space, you say something like, get stronger in the gym. They're like, right, cool, I'll 1 rep max. Like, no, strength is you being able to stand up pain-free. Pain-free is another thing. The amount of people that are just dealing with chronic pain, their clients I love, people who've been told by doctors, I will always have pain in that right knee. I'll never be able to move. I remember one client I had, she was like, I'll never be able to move my big toe. And I'm looking at the client I had at the time, and she maybe fell into the obese category, never lifted weights now. And I'm going like, this, never dealt with this problem before, but my confidence in what resistance training can do to your life, I was like, right, let's see what we can do. Resistance training started with moving our arms, literally using gravity as resistance, then a resistance band, and then we moved on to weight. It's basically like 6 weeks, I think it was. She came running into the gym. She said, Dale, you'll never believe this. Look, she took her shoe off, and she's like, I can move my big toe. I've not been able to move that in 11 years of my life. And to me, they're stories that beat any transformation, any sort of fat to fit photo. They're all great. I love seeing them, but it's never been something I've been drawn to. And that's what, going through my journey, and as I started learning more about this mobility stuff and building muscle, compound lifts, I was like, that's the shit I want to help people with. That's what I want to help more people with. So that's what's next for me, getting that message out there.
Well done, and what a great niche you've carved out for yourself. And I'm sure this will be the first of many.
Let me get you back on mine.
True, I need to do part two. So we hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dale. It's been long overdue. We went over his story. We started off with really just a fly in the wall chat, but over the past year, we've had many conversations that we probably should have recorded. But it's great to see the first-hand experience that, you know, Dale tells you about, from falling into that corporate sort of rat race, getting that two-dimensional trap that you feel that you're stuck into, that many people can resonate with, where they got caught up in the sort of pursuing the next role, pursuing the next, job title, the next salary bracket and so on, or just working for that bonus, and then realising that all too late that they were just a number. Dale had the foresight to figure that out early on and had the courage to take the leap, which is what traps most people. And I guess what you can take from this, if you don't remember anything, you only take one thing away, is just taking that leap into the world of being self-employed, a sole trader, an entrepreneur, or even just starting a side hustle is nowhere near as big a leap as you think. And to have confidence in yourself, because one of the things that I took away from listening to Dale was actually believing in yourself and remembering why you should be confident and not focusing on the negative and thinking, what if you went to that gym? What if they had a space? What if you could start PTing the clients? What if you didn't take money for cleaning the floor? It's these sorts of things that stand out, and there's a theme to people that have great success, and that theme is that they're prepared to do what it takes to chase down their dream. But the dream is not always obvious, because sometimes you don't have the big vision, and that can be worrying that you don't know what that big vision might be, but you do have a part, you have a piece that you can work on. And they all started working on that, and then, as we said, when the students' ears are open, the teacher will appear, and the lessons in life came along for them. And they'll continue to keep coming along, because once you start to learn that this is the formula of things things just keep getting better and better. Dale's got a bright future ahead of him, and his vision will become clearer and clearer. And if you're out there and you want to follow along his path, all his social media channels will be in there, because he's doing the show notes, so they better be in there. He's got a media arm to his business, so if you're out there and you want some media done, have a look at the great job he's doing on my own clips, the posts, the videos, the thumbnails, all the recording from the mindset stuff. So he's got a great team here doing great work. And if you want coaching advice, media advice, or you want to hire the studio out, then hit my boy up. He will hook you up. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode from Mindset. From me this week, that's a wrap.